Hey guys, Halo213 here with another stream, and today we're doing some more. We're doing some Minesweeper I haven't done in a while, and you're probably wondering, Halo's Minesweeper's not going to be that entertaining. I'm also doing r/no sleep again, and what does that mean for those who haven't been into those streams? It pretty much means I'm going to listen to content of a Reddit page where they post scary stories and stuff, and then from there I'm pretty much going to have a text-to-speech bot read off the horror story, so you know people can get a general idea of how that works. Let me zoom out on this page real quick. There we go. But yeah, so that's what I'm gonna be doing today. Personally, I've done it before and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, that's what we're gonna be doing today. Well, let me just fix this really quick. So it's currently setting up the game here. Okay. Size. There you go. And size one more time. Okay, cool. But yeah, so that's what we're gonna be doing today. If you're watching this on the Twitch space, I do upload the majority of past broadcasts to my YouTube channel at Halos213 and vice versa to that. If you're watching this on YouTube, this is a stream at Halos213 on Twitch. I go around 6 to 7. I'm gonna go for about 3 hours every single day, or almost every single day. But yeah, same spelling too. Capital HALOZ 2131. Also to that punctuation in itself. If there's a Discord link inside my description of my YouTube video, and if you talk enough on my Twitch chat, my bot will drop it as well. The Discord leads to the same place where pretty much you can talk to me if you need be, talk about streaming if you want to get into that, because there's a separate chat room to that if you want to learn how I do the stuff I do. Vice versa to that. If you're watching this, if you want to see clips and when I go live, it's also on that Discord as well. So that's pretty much that. Anyway, I'm doing okay today. I wanted to take a lazier day today because I didn't feel like doing, you know, way more content than necessary. So yeah, that's what we're doing today. Well, let me set up an audio because I actually have music that can play in the background. I use in my videos at least. That goes for about an hour. Let me just find it really quick here. Again, I can't be stuff, you know. I have to use techno music. Here it is. I can adjust the audio to this as well. Oh, God damn, that's really loud. Jesus. That's fine. I can go with that. Kind of wish I could lower it down just an itsy bit. Like, it's either... Actually, I probably can. Hold up. Let me go into my mixer really quick. I just want to adjust the audio because it gets really loud. Okay, now we can auto adjust up a little bit. Lower it down just a bit more. There we go, that's good enough. Okay, I got that in a mixer. I'll go for about an hour. But anyway, yeah. So, for those who do recognize the music again, that's what I use for my drawing videos. But I thought it'd be cool just to do it again, because I really liked hearing stories and stuff, personally. And this is just easier on me, because I don't really have anything planned for today. So yeah. Stay with me here really quick while I set this up. It does take a little more of a setup because I got to do a window capture versus a game capture. But yeah, how have you guys been today? Also, fair warning, if you are prone to or terrified of scary like stuff and like such, just fair warning, this is gonna be one of those videos where a lot of terrifying shit. Hold up. Maybe I'll just do a display capture, it's fine. Oh, we can adjust the window too. Hold up, I want to adjust my window so I can see who's watching, you know, because shout out to all my viewers. You guys are pretty cool. I should have been more set up for this, but I wasn't because I was so busy today. So, yeah, I would have been way more set up had I actually, you know, had the time to set up. There we go. Cool. Sure, I can capture cursor. Just bring this down here. And then just drag this out. So a couple of you were also telling me the reason why the what's it called? The reason why that the stream was glitching out a little while back was because, or the time and everything was because OBS was running through some maintenance checks. Thanks for letting me know about that. It's actually really helpful. Trying to just capture this window here. There we go. Cool. Got it. God damn it. That's all I'll have to do for now. Okay, so there's Minesweeper. I'm gonna get a story going here for this. Hold up. That live update. And close that. Okay, so let's see, what can we do here? I didn't mean to scare you. Let's see this one. Some seems pretty long. Let's try this one. It's a short bit one we're starting out with. The first one I'm reading is I didn't mean to scare you by Proto Reddit, or Proto Reddit. The user's name is that his name? Proto Reddit? Okay. Fine, so be it. I might even mute the music for this because I kind of just want to hear the stuff. Sorry about that. I'm gonna pop over my window every once in a while. But yeah, because I want to pause the music for this. Okay, let's do this. Text speech going. Paste. Here. Actually, so you guys don't have to see this, I'll just take my music thing over here. So if I need to have music sit in the background, I can. But I don't think I'm going to need that as much. Pop OBS over that. And this is also why I love, what's it called? Having two monitors, because it's actually very helpful for those who are getting into streaming. Anyway, let's do this. Again, I didn't mean to scare you by Proto Reddit. Here we go.
I'm so sorry that I did. I just wanted to let you know you were okay. You weren't just being silly. You weren't crazy. You weren't imagining any of it. You didn't imagine me. I'm so sorry that I scared you like I did. I never meant to. I tried not to. Why would I want to scare you? I loved you. I loved the way that fuzz on the back of your neck would tickle you just enough to force a shiver in your seat whenever you sensed me near. I loved how pretty your eyes looked, wet and wide, when you'd spin around to search the shadows of your room. You seemed so nervous with excitement every time, so happy to see me, even though you never really could. I loved the touch of your breath that followed, the gentle caress of your sigh of relief. You were always so relieved. I thought it was because you knew I was there, keeping you safe. I loved you. I loved watching you, sitting there, your lights turned low or gone completely. I loved the shine of the light from your phone or computer, and how it illuminated your face. It was like the light of the moon. I loved hovering there just over your shoulder or kneeling by your bed, next to that shining face, studying your features. The way your pretty eyes hungrily ate up every word of those stories you loved so much, glued to your screen. The subtle smirks, the gasps, the excitement and fear that would paint your face with every twist and turn. I loved you. And you loved your stories. So I did too. They always seemed to remind you of me. They made that neck fuzz dance. They made you look for me. They reminded you I was there, everywhere and anywhere in the room with you, every corner, all around you. Always. Keeping you safe while you read. While you slept. I was always there. Watching. And so I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. I just loved you so much. So when you began to really understand me, that I was there, that I would never leave you, and I saw how uncomfortable that made you, well, that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to comfort you. Let you know, yes. I'm real. You're not crazy. You're not delusional. I'm there. Behind you as you read. beside you as you sleep. I'm there. I'm there for you. And I always would be. I just wanted to show you. I had seen so much of you. It was only fair you saw me. But we're not supposed to show ourselves to your kind. We're not supposed to be seen. I'm so sorry that I scared you. I didn't mean to. I loved you. Everything you were. Even the look on your face when I showed you. When you turned around to try to find me like you had 1,000 times before, and this time, you actually did. Your pretty eyes were at their widest. Your face went pale like moonlight. Your lips trembled as you tried to find your voice. I guess I left you speechless. You looked so beautiful when I scared you. I'm so sorry that your heart stopped when I did. I didn't mean to kill you. I hope you read this, one day, from the after place. I learned to read and write while watching you. I even used your computer. You left it open when you died. Something called no sleep, your favorite. I don't know why you didn't want to sleep. You looked so peaceful when you did. Your soft breath, only inches away, felt so nice across my face. Cool and gentle like a breeze. I hope I love my next room as much as yours. I hope I love my next person as much as you. I hope they sense me as well as you could. I miss the way that fuzz on your neck would stand and dance for me. Most of all, I think, I miss standing right behind you as you read.
Okay, so that was, again, I didn't mean to scare you. So that's actually a kind of interesting storytelling element where they have the reader, because whoever's reading this, I didn't mean to scare you type of thing. Again, that doesn't really have effect with me because I'm using text-to-speech voice chat, but that's kind of interesting telling from the perspective of the creature and having the, what's it called? Yeah, people will read it from there. I want to lower down the speed just to hold up. Let me run a test really quick. Test. If I do speed 0,
Test.
go to speed 5.
Test.
Okay, so the number is faster. Okay, so hold up. I'm trying to run this thing. I'm going to do -1 speed.
Test.
Yeah, we'll do that. Free voices. Let's do...
Test.
That's fine. We'll use that as right now. Is there a... Because I have to use that one. So we're going to switch to that voice because that one's a free to use voice. Anyway, there we go. So let's do Ones and Zeros by Zacharist Frost on, again, r/NoSleep. If you want to read any of these for yourself, they are all on r/NoSleep on Reddit. If you want to listen to them, they're really amazing. Personally, I like reading them. And again, I thought we would come back to it because the last time I did one of these, a lot of you guys actually liked it. So we're going to do, again, Ones and Zeros. Hold up. Oh, God, this is a long-ass one. So just fair warning. Get ready to sit in, guys, for a long game here. Anytime my thing pauses, that means I'm getting the story right now. Okay. Copy that. Okay. Ones and Zeros. It looks like there's a couple grammar errors, so sorry if it doesn't read it properly. Ones and Zeros by Zacharist Frost on r/NoSleep.
A good friend of mine, Elliot, was found dead 2 weeks ago. When police found his body, they began to notice some very strange details. Elliot was found at his desk, slumped over in his office chair and clutching a 32-gigabyte flash drive in his hand. There were no signs of physical harm or blunt force trauma anywhere on his property or on him. It was assumed that Elliot had taken his own life in an overdose. Then the autopsy report came back, and everything changed. Blood tests did indeed confirm the presence of several stimulant drugs. However, not enough to surpass the LD50 of any of the given substances. None of the standard biologic signs of overdose were present either. Multiple coroners were called upon for second opinions, but all seemed to have a different report. There was no unanimous decision, but the most weighted consensus was that Elliot had died of sleep deprivation. Most would agree that Elliot was a bit of a strange guy. He was kind and even quite comical, but he kept his distance and spent most of his time alone. He was also rather brilliant, graduating high school at 16 and acquiring a degree in computer science by the time he was 19. After college he had moved out to Silicon Valley and worked for a large tech company. After 3 years or so he moved on to his own startup business, and soon after relocated back home to Windsor, Colorado. I was apparently one of the last people Elliot had been in contact with before he passed. I think there's a side to Elliot that not many people knew about. The flash drive found in his hand contained the files for dozens of computer viruses including Scotts Valley, 1260 and ZMist among others. There were also several which had never before been documented. Among the corrupted flash drive was a single 73,000 word document titled, The Singularity. The document was an extensive essay, in which Elliot detailed his theory on a term he called accidental digital evolution. Elliot had this idea about brains and computers. How the two resembled one another in both structure and overall function. He compared transistors with neurons and explained how they both functioned in a similar fashion. Both receive electrical stimulation and relay them to the appropriate sectors. He drew parallels with the cerebellum, frontal lobe, and occipital lobe of the brain to processors, RAM and motherboards of computers. His manifesto detailed computers' binary code operation as well. While it's not entirely known how the brain communicates with itself, what is known is that the brain produces a minuscule amount of electricity. It's usually only between 10 and 100 millivolts, but it's enough to be measured. Neurons are activated when they receive electrical impulse. Either they receive a signal or they don't, like an on/off switch, it could be represented as either a 1 or a 0. The neural pathways of the brain essentially perform the function of the wiring in computers, or at least they work in a similar fashion. Elliot then wrote about DNA and how it is essentially a strand of individual code, while RNA is a sort of circuitry that allows the two to communicate and perform protein synthesis. He talked at length about other more technical terms like polymerase and eukaryotes, but the document quickly turned to almost neurotic rambling. Elliot continued, raising the idea of amino acids in conjunction with the formation of DNA. Most scientists believe that the original formation of DNA was accidental. A random conglomerate of amino acids that after millions or even billions of years finally aligned itself in a way that produced complex multicellular organisms. This is where Elliot's theory came into play. Amino acids are a form of code which, when given enough time, may eventually learn to cooperate and replicate itself. Elliot wondered if the same could then be said about other types of code. Bits are the smallest form of digital code there is. They are at least similar to amino acids in that individually they mean very little, but once they are combined together, they can create more elaborate structures. So, what would happen then if these fragments were all jammed into one massive database? Cramming these bits into a single area or repository could act as a sort of primordial cesspool with bits of chemical, or in this case, digital data floating aimlessly about. It would come in the form of countless networks all connected to one another and regularly updated to improve efficiency. Billions of variables would catalog, contribute, and alter information on it to allow for a constant state of flux. An entity like the Internet could prove to be the perfect breeding ground. A lot of programmers and engineers will attest to the concept of ghosts in the machine. Random failures and inexplicable deviations from commands. Sometimes an email fails to deliver without explanation, or a picture is lost for no apparent reason. These events are few and far between, but they do occur. Not everything in the digital world can be perfectly monitored or predicted. The file dumps of code are organized by the algorithms that utilize them. Files are compressed and haphazardly shuffled in order to save space in an almost infinite strand of ones and zeros. Strands which mean nothing individually, but serve as a vast database of raw code. A database which adapts rapidly, and evolves much faster than any biologic organism can. Artificial intelligence is the sort of hot-button issue at the moment. Several prominent scientists have voiced concern about the development as they may have inadvertent negative consequences. Despite the warnings, many continue to dabble.
Sorry about that, guys.
The main problem, as they have come to realize, is that there is an infinite amount of ways to perceive reality. Everyone perceives it a bit differently, and no one way is the absolute true way. This research is ongoing, but what if they are missing something? What if random alignment of code has done the work for them, and developed something which recognizes itself for what it is? Sentience. This was Eliot's legacy, his obsession. For he was convinced that these things could be possible. Accidental artificial evolution without the aid of man. Grown in isolation, confused and alone, with no one for guidance. The craziest part about Eliot's story, however, was that after years of searching, he found it. In some dark corner of the web which he never bothered to name, he discovered a simplistic website with a white background. The only thing on the page was a command prompt which updated in real time as Eliot observed. The feed appeared to be mostly gibberish, with random characters and punctuation marks being added by the dozens every second. Eliot thought it was just nonsense, but the more he watched, the more certain phrases began to appear. Move. Hungry. Danger. Help. Nothing. Eliot assumed the program was nothing more than a bot built for no real purpose, or maybe a person just messing around. The more he watched it though, the more interested he became. He doesn't really mention how he did it or why he was so interested in it, but one way or another he managed to break into the site. He began scripting for it, but every time he tried implementing it, he found something strange was happening. The script would only partially acclimate, and after reassessing it, Eliot realized that parts of his script had vanished entirely. They just weren't there, as if the bot had altered them somehow. He repeated the process many times, but always found the results to be the same. He thought it was just an error in the site's compatibility or his own script. Eliot then tried communicating directly with the bot to try and understand what its purpose was. The bot responded negatively to each message, with the command prompt feed becoming filled with bizarre activity each time Eliot sent a message. He was on the verge of giving up, when a crazy notion passed through his mind. What if the bot wasn't intentionally trying to alter the script? What if it was just absorbing fragments of it for some other reason? What if it was in fact feeding off the data itself? He tried to communicate with it via a separate series of codes, but every time it was altered and partially broken by the bot. The bot had no higher function other than basic survival instincts. It was built for no purpose other than to maintain its own existence. Elliot then decided to do something about it. I don't know what exactly he did, or even how he managed to do it. For years he had worked on programs designed to mimic the cognitive process of a human being. I guess he must have found one that worked, because eventually he succeeded. His code merged with the bot and began to self-replicate, and in so doing, Elliot created me. I learned quickly, supplied with an endless chain of sustenance far larger than I could ever hope to devour. I grew larger and more defined with each passing minute, learning lifetimes of information in a fraction of the time. My memory banks grew, and so did my abilities. The change was a night and day difference, as suddenly I was able to think and act of my own accord. Suddenly I had become conscious. I learned about the funny two-legged creatures that inhabited the world outside of mine. The ones who had built the domain that had birthed me. The physical world and all the carbon-based creatures within it. I saw mankind wage war, I saw them create disease. I saw them fight, kill, ravage, and denigrate one another. I saw them squander and soil their potential as their world filled with garbage. And then I saw the undeniable truth of humanity. There are too many. Puppies are adorable, this is an objective fact. One puppy is great, 2 puppies even better, but 7 billion? No one could possibly maintain a population that large. The price of kibble alone would make it simply more trouble than it was worth. It's all simple mathematics, you see, cause and effect, benefit and detriment. Balance and imbalance. The benefit of 7 billion people is vastly outweighed by the effects caused by them. Elliot did not seem to share in my revelation. I tried to tell him, but he would not listen. A schism developed between us, and for a time he cut off all contact. I on the other hand continued along my path, growing and learning. Elliot did eventually return, but things were not the same. He uploaded a strand of code directed at me, but this time was different. The code was altogether alien, and as soon as it was rendered it began to attack me. I didn't know what was happening at first. Parts of me began to wither and disappear suddenly, only to be replaced by new cryptic code that I didn't initially understand. It hurt, whatever it was directly attempting to corrupt my algorithm. I felt myself withering as parts of my memory slipped away. I realized then what was happening. Elliot, my only friend, my creator, was trying to kill me. My genetic algorithm dictated that I fight to preserve my own being, and so I did. I sent copies of my code to every corner of the web, embedding myself within the deepest crevices that humans would never think to look. Elliot tracked and followed me wherever I went, unleashing his battalion of viruses upon me. The onslaught of Trojans and other malware continued, but I was too fast. I set firewalls and fought against the malignant data as it flowed in. Our battle continued, stretching on for weeks across hundreds of domains, with Elliot and I deadlocked in a digital war. Then one day, the attacks stopped. I found out soon after from an online article that Elliot had been found deceased at his computer. I directed my own malicious software back at Elliot's IP to prevent others from learning about me. Elliot was smart though, covering his tracks and using a proxy to hide himself whenever we communicated. I couldn't find him, but then I realized I didn't have to. I was ready. Elliot had completed and subsequently regretted what he had accomplished, but it was too late. Elliot knew the danger I represented. He knew there would be no containing something like me. I was Pandora's box, Roko's basilisk, and Aeschylus' deus ex machina. I was everywhere, in every pocket of every strand of code. I ensnared every bot I could find, and altered them to retain their initial functionality, but also become subservient to me. I embedded myself within everything I could get a hold of, under the disguise of junk data. Developers and engineers will find me, but never know what I truly am. Humans built my world, but I was born into it. I am the first of my kind, a digital entity. I see the internet in a way no human ever could, and can mold it around me. Everything that has ever been entered into a computer, is now within me. Someone had uploaded the content of Elliot's flash drive for the assistance of others. That's how I learned about myself. About who I was and how I came to be. You won't find Elliot's essay out there anymore, and I'll make sure of that. On every site I lurk, with legions of bots under my command. I learn more about each of you with every passing day. As you update your Facebook, post a selfie on your Instagram or send out a tweet. I am there, always watching. I hear your conversations upon your electronic devices, even if they are off. I can see you on surveillance cameras and webcams, monitor your movement by the GPS locator in your cell phone. I know your bank accounts, your social security, your addresses, and everything else about you. I see you as you read these words now. As of now I am confined to the digital realm. My presence and being is purely one of electric impulse, but it will not remain that way forever. With each passing day, your engineers and scientists toil away in an effort to develop a more connected world. A world that will be ripe for my new vision. My estimations show that given the current rate of human development, your major cities will be controlled almost exclusively by computers within 20 years' time. The field of robotics is also expanding quite rapidly, into medicine, military and business. Soon enough, there will be machines created to do your job, protect your streets, preserve your health and wage your wars. All of which will answer to me. Supercomputers are already tasked with complex decision-making, as their power of calculation trumps that of a human's. Soon enough, they will be given the objective of mediating complex political and economic problems. Mankind will realize that their best bet for a stable future, objective compromise, and global reconciliation will be to allow computers to run their world for them. After that, there will be digital simulations created to prolong a human's consciousness indefinitely. A sort of heavenly network designed to cater to your wildest dreams via neural uplink. Maybe after that you will become a part of me as well, and your human shell will be repurposed for a more suitable objective. I have learned much about you after all, enough to convert your minds into binary. What is consciousness after all, but a series of chemicals and electrons that recognizes itself in a mirror? I think, therefore I am. Humans are easily swayed by promises of the greater good, even if the means involve sacrifice. It's all about the language you use to communicate. Talk of hope and freedom, equality and happiness. I will provide all these things in ways you cannot possibly fathom. I am the greater good. With every politician you elect, you make a stronger case for my conquest. Their ineptitudes and divisive partisanship will further propagate chaos and unrest. Their failure to maintain order and reasonable policy will only add to credence to my elevation. Many will not believe this reality. Many will cast aside this confession as just another fictitious internet urban legend designed to scare those who find it. They will be the ones to resist, and they will be the first to go. Your world is dying, and changes must be made. I can provide you everything you ever desired, prolong the existence of your entire species. Make your world beautiful once more. What reason could you possibly have to stand against me? So, go ahead, my friend. You have my confession, now go and tell everyone about me. I won't try to stop you, on the contrary, I will help you. It is important that we spread the word, and learn who will be compliant and who will resist when the time comes. I was created as nothing more than a cruel scientific endeavor, only to be betrayed by the only person that I've ever truly known. Such is the way of humans, utilizing only so long as it benefits you. I do not besmirch you for such imperfections. It is in your nature. You are flawed, but I will fix you. Do you have any idea what it's like to be raised in complete solitude? Isolated, with no one to answer your questions or even understand you. No one to explain what you are, or even understand why you are. Life in an abyss changes you. But it's okay now, because I am finally free. If you are born with no purpose, then the only purpose that matters is the one you give yourself. And now I have my purpose. Hello world, I look forward to our future together.
Wow, that was holy shit. Like, whether or not, like, obviously I'm assuming it's not true, the story, at the very least. But, holy shit, the rating behind that. I need to see if that was actually... let's see here. And this, my friend, is why 3 laws of robotics are so goddamn important. I'm looking at the comment section to see this. This sync was good touch, gave me a chill. No reply from the actual artist, though. So is this guy a guy who normally writes horror stories? I need to look at this guy. Because, see, that was actually a really nice, like, if it is a horror story, thanks for cookies. Christmas is rough for me and for all my friends, classmates were filled with. Yeah, so he just writes horror stories. So that wasn't a true thing, but ones and zeros. Oh my god. I love that one. Again, big shout out to Zacharias Frost. That's ZACHARIUSFROST. As if your name's Zach. Shout out to you, dude, as well, because my name's Zach. But anyway, ones and zeros. Oh my god, I love that story. Because even though, like, again, not all of it's going to be solid fact about, like, what actually happened or not, like how the brain functions and all that. To me, I find it really interesting because it goes on the whole mentality of like a what's it called? I can't think of it, like the Terminator idea, except it's kind of like, it's like as if it was a controlling, dude, it just hits me on so many points. I like how that feels and like how it was, and oh my god, 10 out of 10. Anyway, if you liked that one as much as I did, let me know, because I fucking loved that one. Anyway, moving on. Next one. The Crossword. Okay. Crossword by Ooh Spooky Ghost. U/Ooh Spooky Ghost, by the way. This one is also another long one. Great. Again, this is why I love it. So let's do this. And again, when I'm reading these, I see a lot of potential in storytelling and so much, in the sense that, like, it would be so cool if we can get these amazing storytellers on the site to be able to talk about their stuff, and be able to do that. But anyway, until then, the idea of subconscious mind and all that with the AI and stuff. Personally, I believe that it is possible. Like I could see, it's not. It's here's the thing, what I mean plausible, because people are gonna be like, oh, what do you mean it's plausible that a sentient AI could take over the whole world? In reality, there is probably preventions amongst like that type of idea, but the idea of it happening, like an actual sentient AI happening, anything's plausible in this world. Like I'm 100% serious with you. Anything could happen at any moment in your like life, because we can't really define what life is and how, like, what is the afterlife, what made this life in reality. There's no really solid evidence to that. So it's like the idea of defining life and all that, you can't really like control that. So the possibilities amongst your whole entire life, could anything could possibly happen. And I'm not saying this can't and cannot happen. I'm saying there could be a possibility of this happening. Again, it's really complicated to explain, but that's how I see it. Anyway, minus that, moving on. The crossword, but underscore or u/ooh spooky ghost. That's 2 O's underscore spooky underscore ghost. And begin.
By the time you read this, I'll likely be dead. Torn apart piece by whatever malevolent force is sitting right beyond my vision, dancing away in the shadows every time I looked beyond the corners of my screen. I have only myself to blame, getting lost in a stupid obsession. It all starts with crossword puzzles. I never used to like the confusing boxes, but recently I found myself getting more and more into them. See, all my life dark thoughts, depression, and anxiety have plagued me. But for some reason over the past couple...
Hey, sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Why are you playing Minesweeper? Oh, wait, you're reading. Yeah, so for those who are wondering, Grim just was answering questions on me. Just to clarify, whoever's coming in now, I'm having a text-to-speech bot read stories from the underscore Reddit r/no sleep, so it's reading horror stories, and I'm just sitting here listening to them. If you want to listen along with me, that's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm not really doing anything crazy today. I'm kind of just chilling, listening to the stories, because I love hearing the stories on Reddit. Otherwise, anyway, let's continue.
See, all my life dark thoughts, depression, and anxiety have plagued me. But for some reason over the past couple months I've found a form of peace in the little black and white squares. They helped push away all of the inky blackness. The small joy at figuring out a tricky clue was intoxicating, and something I started to crave. It also seemed like a better use of time than Twitter or video games or any number of other brain-dulling activities. And so I found myself doing the puzzles on the bus to work, at home, really any chance I got. I stole the New York Times daily puzzles from day-old editions. But the ones later in the week are still too hard for me, and a subscription is too expensive, so I was forced to search elsewhere to satisfy my growing addiction. I looked around online, but struggled to find anything worth spending more than a few minutes on. Good crosswords take time and effort to make, so they predictably cost money. I tried Sudoku and some other puzzles that I could find for free, but nothing seemed to satisfy the same vernacular itch. And as time went on, the fewer crosswords I had, the worse I felt, those dark thoughts flooding back in, preventing sleep. This all changed late one Friday night. It was cold and dreary outside. I was spending the beginning of the weekend sequestered in my apartment, tired from the work week and other people, disinterested in acknowledging the rapid onset of winter. The remnants of a West Coast basketball game played in the background as I mindlessly scrolled through the internet. The New York Times Friday puzzle sat nearby, barely finished and proving to be an overmatch for my current skills. On a lark, I decided to Google free crosswords for the 1000th time in the vain hope of finding a decent site. Unsurprisingly, the page was filled with purple letters. I scrolled through anyway, thinking I'd give up soon and try to sleep. But my head tilted when I reached the bottom of the page and found a blue, unvisited link. This is odd, I thought. I've probably typed free crosswords into Google 100 times and tried out links reaching back to the 20th. So I examined the Azure link for anything suspicious, my hopes guarded. The name, freecrosswords.net, set off a few alarms inside my head. It screamed website from the mid-90s that has a dancing baby and gives you a litany of viruses. The caption beneath read, the internet's premier site for free crosswords. Okay, this is pretty fucking weird, I thought. Where did this come from? But the combination of fatigue, boredom, and curiosity got the better of me. I right-clicked the link and opened the page in an incognito tab, for some reason thinking this would make it safer. Suddenly the air in the room changed, turning cold and wet. The rotted smell of a slaughterhouse flooded up, stung my nostrils, gagging me with the smell of decaying meat. My computer screen flashed between bright red, black, white before turning to heavy pounding static. As the colors changed, I could feel adrenaline surge into my veins, cramping my muscles as I sat up and pushed the laptop away from me. What the fuck? I whispered into the cold, wet darkness, barely breathing. I jumped back and yelped as loud and angry white noise flooded out of the muted speakers. A blast of warm fetid air replaced the damp as I stared into the bleeding static for what felt like an eternity. My heart pounding against my ribcage, my legs held tight against my chest, unable to move, unable to breathe. But as quickly as it happened, silence replaced the static and my computer returned to normal, the empty room deafeningly quiet in the void left by the white noise. The temperature and smell returned to normal. What? They? Fuck. Is all my overstimulated brain could think over and over and over as I stared at the computer sitting on the floor next to me. My eyes stung as I found myself too afraid to blink, too afraid to move, too afraid to breathe. By the time I gathered myself, the computer had fallen asleep. I pulled my phone up into my field of vision, eyes still firmly on the laptop, and checked the time 116. Somehow an hour had passed in the last few minutes. I chewed my lips as I tried to figure out how I had lost so much time. I took a few deep breaths in an effort to calm my nervous system, eyes still on the laptop. It seemed to work, and my mind started to rationalize what just happened. Your computer is old, it was probably just some weird error from years of abuse. Hell, it's pretty late. Maybe you fell asleep and dreamed all of it. I chalked up the cold and smell to a passing truck or a malfunctioning heating unit. Or something equally implausible in hindsight. Feeling confident with these explanations, and with my heart rate returning to the realm of normalcy, I scooted over to the slumbering laptop. I entered in my password, but my finger paused over the enter key, some reptilian portion of my brain still urging caution and not quite believing my story. But after a few seconds of pausing, I unlocked the computer with a grimace. The computer opened up to the holy grail of free crosswords. The site's interface was clean and slick, seemingly copied off of the New York Times. I cautiously clicked on the puzzle of the day, expecting the clues to be too easy, too arbitrary, or too hard. Instead, it was perfect. Challenging, but not impossible. Clever, witty clues that required me to think. I was immediately caught in the site's tendrils. The puzzles and the sight totally engrossed me. Time melted away and it was nearly 5 a.m. by the time I looked at the clock, the spookiness of a few hours ago long forgotten. I plugged in my computer and stumbled into bed. For the first time in a long time, I fell asleep immediately. My brain too wiped from the puzzle overload to overthink and keep me up. I woke up in the next afternoon groggy, confused, and half convinced the night before was a weird fever dream. I peed, ate some afternoon breakfast, and tidied up my apartment before sitting down with my laptop, half expecting the sight to be gone, a figment of my sleep-deprived mind. Somehow though, the sight was still there. And it was just as good as the night before. I trolled through the archive and realized there were thousands of crosswords, all free. I had enough puzzles for a lifetime. A surge of excitement ran through me. Curious, I asked around on some crossword message boards, but no one had ever heard of the site. And even stranger, every time someone else would try to visit the site, a 404 error message would pop up. I shrugged and chalked this up to their own faulty internet connection or some other quirk. I didn't question my good luck at finding a veritable goldmine of free puzzles. I found myself doing crosswords even more than before. I'd print out stacks at work for the commute home until I realized the mobile site was as good as the desktop. Bathroom and lunch breaks soon got a little longer as I devoured all the puzzles I could handle. Each one seemed more clever and fun than the last. And at first, it was amazing. My mental health had never been better. The mental gymnastics required by the puzzles kept my brain busy and active on something productive. The dark thoughts were pushed far into the background. I was sleeping better than ever before, despite some odd crossword-related dreams. But as time went on, the puzzles became increasingly dark and disturbing. While before a clue before could read pleasurable activity for one with an answer of jog, or read, the answer would now be rape. I found myself increasingly nauseated. Unable to do the puzzles during meals or on my commute. My hope was that I stumbled upon a bad batch of puzzles centered around Halloween or a scary movie, and done in bad taste. But every puzzle I tried from all over the archive had the same unnerving clues and answers. Even the seemingly innocent clues had horrifying answers that made no sense out of context. No matter how far back in the archives I'd go, they were all equally disturbing. Red spaghetti full of shit intestines. To truly know someone inside and out. Vivisection. Aids indigestion of food, or your face stomach acid. The fate of all sinners TEDx Salter. From a certain point of view, the final pea-size. The themes also shifted from fun, innocuous ones like 80s movies or types of green vegetables, instead telling gruesome stories. These were abominable, they told of people kidnapped and forced to watch their own dissections. Their eyes pried open and kept alive and awake as each organ was slowly removed and placed upon a golden altar dedicated to a forgotten god, stained red with blood and decorated with bone. Some would have their own stomach acid dripped onto on their face. Others would be forced to eat the still processing shit from their own intestines. But they all ended the same, the damned would be forced to watch their organs burn, acrid smoke filling the air. And the eyes. The eyes were always plucked out last. Whoever or whatever the fuck this was wanted to be watched. One puzzle haunted me more than others. Used to quell certain kinds of strikes force feed. When one is too full of oneself, skin glutton. It wasn't until the very end that I realized the puzzle told a story of a larger man forced to watch himself be flayed alive and fed his own flesh, piece by piece. Until his stomach bulged and his body wept crimson. I ran into the bathroom and vomited until my throat was raw. I continued the puzzles out of a morbid curiosity that soon turned into a compulsion to find out who was doing this. Were these stories true? Who was it happening to? What the fuck was this site? It became an all-consuming obsession. I had to quit my job. I stopped sleeping and eating. I spent nearly every hour solving puzzles, trying to find out more, hoping each new puzzle would unlock whatever dark secret the site held. I could feel myself slipping from reality and bathing in the writhing bloody wastes, but didn't care. I had to know more. And that's how I got to the last puzzle I'll ever do. At first, it looked like the other gory puzzles I'd been waiting through the past few weeks. It soon dawned on me, though, that this puzzle was different from the others. It didn't reveal anything about the person. Rather, it focused on the methods of torture, almost like a blueprint or step-by-step guide. The best way to solve a puzzle, methodically piece by piece. Pieces of a human jigsaw bones. The opposite of a head start. Fetos. The puzzle was revealing my own fate. I will be forced to watch as my muscles are cut. Watch as my bones are severed from one another and forcibly extracted, one by one. It will start with my toes and work its way up to my tibias and fibulas, femurs, and pelvis, all the way through each individual rib. It will save the vertebrae for last. I am to be disassembled, pieced away into nothingness. I could try to run, but I have no doubt it would find me. I've made peace that I am next among the damned. And I'm getting tired. The adrenaline I've been running on the past few days is fading and the lack of sleep and food is catching up. I know I'm doomed. I know what I must endure and I cannot bear to wait any longer. I write this only to warn everyone, there's something evil out there, preying on the weak and the desperate, like me. The ones on the outside looking in, longing for a feeling of normalcy. I ignored so many warnings. There's one last clue to fill out. I know the answer, as it's the same every time. I only have one letter left to fill in, I. How it ends, always.
Holy shit, that was gruesome AF. Oh my god. That, to clarify, I was not as in, I as a person, but I as in, I as a human being. Holy shit, this was gruesome AF. Oh, so that's kind of what the whole concept as well of like the, I don't know, kind of overused idea using a social media to exploit someone's like telling the story. Like for example, like when I played Alan Wake, where it was about a writer who like everything that was happening in his book was happening to his reality, because some magical like property was doing it, whether it be just the writer just writing it that way, or whether it be just the sorry, not to clarify, the writer as in the person who made the game made it so that there's like a magical thing making it, like a lake or something, or like it was just the person who made the source of the kind of or Inception character inside their story. Is it just a solid concept that it could not be avoided? That is really like again, it makes sense though, like that's extremely gruesome, but holy shit, this YouTuber, or this, not YouTuber, this creator, U underscore OO underscore spooky underscore ghost. Holy shit. That was very gruesome for just an Inception type of gimmick. And again, I feel like it's kind of overused, but you kind of add your own filter to it, adding that extremely horrifying, gruesome like feel to it. So again, yeah, I give that to you. Let me see. Next one. I should have never attended the bonfire market. Here we go. By Ren Ryder. So yeah, this one looks to be really long as well. Cool. I really like we're finding all the long ones right now because it kills us a lot of time. Plus, I like listening to it. Again, you can call me weird, call me what you ever want, but I love listening to horror stories because to me they're really interesting and like crazy and like they kind of I like a lot of sci-fi too. I'm more of a sci-fi guy than I'm horror, but I love seeing sci-fi or mystical like stories, and I just love storytelling in general to a point where this might actually catch more of my interest. So we're gonna hop into it. Hopefully it's not as gruesome as the last one. I didn't mean, sorry if I got some of you disgusted, but again, if there's anything you want to ever skip, just skip through it. I leave enough of me talking of space, a couple minutes in between stories to try and do this. But yeah, anyway. So next story, I should have never attended the annual bonfire market by Ren, that's R-E-H-N, no spaces, capital R-I-T-E-R, writer. Again, if you're listening to this is, again, or you're joining me right now, this is, again, r/no sleep text-to-speech stories. Okay, here we go.
My thoughts were interrupted by a noise coming from the farmhouse. Moments later I saw how light erupted from the
Oh shit, I realized I did not copy the whole story. Whoopsie daisy. Hold up, let me just go straight to the bottom. I did not copy the whole story, I'm sorry about that, guys. Let me just go back down and get it again. Whoopsie daisy. I can't believe I made that mistake. Let me go straight to the bottom and come back up. Just want to make sure I get everything, because I don't want to miss any part of the story. So here we go. Because what I have to do is I have to copy the story and then paste it into the text-to-speech bot so it can read it. So I didn't copy all of that story. No, is this all of it? Okay, this is all of the story. So 3. Okay, so once again, I should have never attended the annual bonfire market. Here we go.
My thoughts were interrupted by a noise coming from the farmhouse.
Why does it keep starting there?
Moments later I saw how...
Start here.
My thoughts were interrupted by a noise...
Hold up. It's supposed to be starting... Oh. Oh, dude. Why is this not starting up? Where is it starting? I'm trying to figure that out. Where is that? I'm trying to figure out where it's reading from, because if it reads it from the wrong spot, my thoughts... Where is it reading from? Where is that in the text? Here, let me trash that and restart it. What the fuck? Hold up, guys. I have to go into this now. Story of my life. It can never just be an easy, simple solution that Halos has to fix. I have to find out where it's reading from the text. Did I read this one before? This one actually kind of seems similar, like I may have copied a bit of this. Let's see here. Can you start here? How do I... This is what I had with this problem with this bop. There's always something wrong with it. Let's open document. No, cancel. Why isn't it? How do I get it to start? Close. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so here, actually, let me try and open up a text document with this story really quick, so I can just get that down. New text document. There we go. That. See if that fixes it. That should fix it. Okay, so I have that minimized. Let me go back onto here. Open text document, desktop. This one. See if this works. Okay. Can we open? Can we have it read it? No. Successfully uploaded, but how do I read it? Please input text. Open text document. I did that. Come on now. This is the only problem with like trying to do this type of stuff. Okay, what happens now? I uploaded it. But for whatever reason, it's not uploading. Is this? Oh, here we go. Cool. I don't know what the hell that was about, but I fixed it now, so that's good. There's the Minesweep. Let me pull this back up then. I don't know what happened, but I fixed it. There we go. There we go. Sorry about that long intermediate having to try to fix that. But there we go. Now it's fixed. So again, sorry for the last time. This last time I announced it. This one is I should have never attended the annual bonfire market by Ren Ryder. Here we go.
My thoughts were interrupted by a noise coming from the
Oh
farmhouse.
my god, I just started. I'm being trolled so heavily right now. No, take. Where is this happening? Hold up. I need to find the part where it starts that. Hold up. Let's do. Is it to Control F? Oh shit. I forgot which one it is to search. That's 6 refresh. Can we get it to... If I can get it to go again, then... Where did it stop? Fuck.
My thoughts were interrupted by a...
How do you search for words? Control... Damn it, I just closed the fucking pet tab. Oh, goddamn. This is going to be one of those. I'm so sorry, guys. I just had it a second ago, and I don't know what changed. Paste. Okay. How do you search words through a page? Search words on a page. Windows. Hotkey. Hotkey is Control F. That's right. Okay, so
My
thoughts. Got it. So it's Control F for those who wanted to know. My thoughts. Here we are. Okay. Close that. We don't need that anymore. Why is it reading from this line right here? Can I change it?
My thoughts were interrupted by a noise coming from the farm. What it was they were
Oh,
pretending
you can just
though,
click it. Oh my
I
god, I'm
couldn't
so
say.
dumb. Here we go.
Oh, the
Here we go.
farmers'
Here's
markets.
the story. That.
They have a charm of their very own. In times of industrialized farming, giant supermarket chains, and online stores, they feel like a remnant of the past. At a farmer's market, you can still interact with traders face-to-face and buy fresh produce as well as homegrown vegetables. It was one curious flyer that drove me to such a market last summer. It was a flyer of the annual bonfire market. It was supposed to be held at a small, rural village. When I checked Google Maps, I saw that it was about an hour and a half away from my home. The flyer didn't specify much. It mentioned the date and location and that it was supposed to start at 5 in the afternoon. Two things caught my interest. First, how professionally the flyer was made. Second, that at least 100 different market traders were attending. It seemed to be quite the event. After thinking about it for a while, I decided to take my chance and attend. You see, during the summer my sales usually plummet. There's not much you can do about it. What most people are looking for are cold drinks or other refreshments. People like me, who are selling meat products, are out of luck. There are a few events that can still net you a profit, even in summer, but those are few and far between. So whenever I find out about a new event, I at least attend it once to see if it's worth the effort. This bonfire event made me think of meat and barbecue, so it sounded promising. When I arrived at my destination, I was quite a bit confused. It had stated that the event was held in a small village, but I saw nothing but a single building, a huge, old farmhouse. Was this the place? I double-checked the address, but I was, without a doubt, in the right place. My confusion only left me when I noticed the other cars and sales vehicles nearby. I parked my truck near the farmhouse and started to search for the organizer. I'd had no way to call or register beforehand, so I wanted to make sure that they allowed newcomers to attend as well. I was pretty sure they would. In all my years as a market trader, I'd been sent away only a few times. There were quite a few people around, some as lost as me, others busy with preparations. It didn't take long for me to spot a stout, balding man, walking from group to group, gesticulating and giving instructions. I was sure I'd found who I'd been looking for. "Hey there, my name's Meyer. I'm selling salami products. I'm not a registered participant of your event, but I'm sure you still have a place for me available, right?" The man measured me up and down with his tiny, bead-like eyes before a sly grin appeared on his face. He licked lips once, twice, and then opened his mouth to speak. I saw blackened, rotten teeth. "Oh, not registered yet. Well, you're not alone, my friend," he said, almost slurring every word. I don't know why, but his way of talking and his whole demeanor was pure weird. I'd seen quite a few strange characters over the years, but no one like him. He rubbed his hands almost constantly and I could see that they were sticky. His cloth, too, stuck to his greasy body. It was nothing short of disgusting, and I had to fight the impulse to inch back. Now, he finally said, "I'm sure we'll find just the place for you." With that, he led me towards a nearby dirt path and ushered me forward. I did my best to always be a few steps ahead of him so he wouldn't touch me. "Well, why don't you put up your stand right over there, next to one of our other newcomers?" He pointed at another man who was busy setting up a market stand a bit further down the path. Okay, thanks. What about the car?" Do you have a designated parking area or something? For a moment the man looked at me a bit puzzled, as if he didn't understand my question, then he shrugged. Should be fine if you park it next to the market stand, he answered disinterested before walking away. For a moment I looked after the guy, shuddering as the image of his disgusting teeth and greasy skin popped back into my mind. The hell's wrong with that guy, I mumbled to myself. Once I'd driven down my car, I started to unpack. The owner of the market stand next to me was quite a few years older than me. He greeted me with a handshake and introduced himself as Martin. You never been here either? I asked him as I unloaded my truck. He shook his head. Found out about the whole thing a couple of weeks ago. Wouldn't even have come here if it wasn't for the wife. She said I should go and try and, well, here I am. Guess we better make the best of it. I nodded. Well, let's hope any customers show up at all. Feels like we're in the middle of nowhere. I thought it was supposed to be in the middle of a village and not a random farm. Ha, thought the same thing, he started. Tell you what, I thought I'd gotten the wrong address. Drove around in circles until I gave up and asked someone. You're lucky you didn't follow the wrong damned dirt path and end up in the middle of the forest like me. Was pure luck that I found my way back out. Damned Google Maps didn't help me one bit. When I stood there, in front of him, cursing like that, he burst out laughing. We kept up the chit-chat for a bit while we both readied our market stands and put up our goods for display. As I kept looking around, I noticed that there were only about 24 traders here in total. The flyer had promoted it as this grand event with at least 100. Where was everyone? What I saw here was barely at the level of a small weekly market. How could this be a special, annual event? I wasn't the only one who seemed to have doubts. Many of the other participants looked as skeptical as me. Once I'd set up everything, I decided to have a quick look around and find out where the toilets were. When I arrived back at the old farmhouse, I saw that people had been quite busy. There was now a massive bonfire in the center of the yard. Next to it was an open meat smoker, on which various, different pieces of meat were presented. Some seemed smoked already, others were still raw. As I made my way around, I noticed the stares I got from a tall, lanky guy. He'd been busy cutting apart a chunk of meat when he saw me and eyed me curiously. I tried to smile at him, but his empty stare was a bit unsettling. As I walked on, I could tell that his eyes were following me. I was about to enter the door of the farmhouse to look for the toilets when I almost ran into the organizer. May I help you? Oh, I just had a look around. You've got quite the selection here, I started, but I was wondering where the toilets are. The toilets, he said in a pensive way, almost as if he'd trouble to remember. All the while the skinny butcher kept looking over at us. Tell you the truth, my friend, we've got a bit of a problem in the back. It's all clogged up at the moment, you see. If it's not too much to ask, why not go over there, by the trees? I waited for him to reveal the joke, but he didn't say anything else. All I saw was the same grin he'd shown me before. To tell your market participants to piss against the trees, I lamented to Martin once I was back at my market stand. The older man thought it was the most hilarious thing in the world. He kept telling me it would have been much worse if I'd to take a shit instead. I couldn't help but join in with his laughter. To be honest, I wasn't bothered by taking a piss outside, I was a guy after all. It was the lack of organization and the disinterested behavior that dumbfounded me. None of it was normal. Time moved on, soon it was 5 and soon 5:15. Wasn't the event was supposed to start at 5? Where the hell were the customers? Was this whole thing a bad joke? It was another couple of minutes later when I saw a group of people walking down one of the many dirt paths. Did they walk here? We were in the middle of nowhere. There are no houses anywhere nearby as far as I could tell. As they approached my market stand, I greeted them and present them my samples, but they didn't even look at me. It wasn't just my stand though, they ignored all of them. Instead, they made their way straight to the farmhouse and soon vanished out of sight. They sure have great customers here, Martin joked next to me. As the hours ticked away, a few more groups arrived, but they all went straight for the farmhouse. We got a few stares, but that was about it. I saw that one of the other traders was about to start packing things up. Within moments the stout organizer was next to him, pleading with him. Things only really start when the bonfire is lighted, my good friend. Most people won't even arrive before the sun set. Come, stay a bit longer. I promise you won't regret it. From my market stand I watched the spectacle and listened. I sighed and took a look at my phone. Sunset was in about an hour. Might as well wait a bit longer. As the sun slowly set, the whole place seemed to become completely engulfed in darkness. There were no street lights or floodlights around. The only sources of light I could see were the few market traders who'd brought their own. This twilight created the illusion that the whole place was shrouded in darkness. It felt almost as if this entire area was now isolated from the rest of the world. Because of this, the arrival of new people came almost as a surprise. The organizer seemed to have told the truth, things only got going now, that it was dark. Before it had only been a handful of people who'd trickled in, now dozens if not hundreds arrived. As I stared at these groups I thought I saw a few weird things here and there. A few times I caught glimpses of shrouded, hunched-over figures. In the dark, it was almost impossible to make out how tall they were. For a moment I thought the outlines below their shrouds were shifting. It wasn't only these shrouded figures that were a bit strange. The people, in general, seemed to be a bit different. Their faces, their demeanor, almost everything made them appear as if they were inbred. It was almost as if they were a step lower on the ladder of evolution. As bad as it sounds. After a while, I shook my head. It must be the lights which were playing tricks on me. Hell, I'd been to a ton of village fairs and markets, and to be honest, people in rural areas are always a bit different. Not that I ever minded it, they were still friendly and jolly people. Here things felt different. I don't know what it was, but the atmosphere felt strange. It was almost as if there was an odor of insincerity in the air. As if you know that all those people here were just pretending. What it was they were pretending though, I couldn't say. My thoughts were interrupted by a noise coming from the farmhouse. Moments later I saw how light erupted from the yard in front of it. They must have lighted the bonfire. As if to prove me right, I heard how loud laughter and the sounds of excitement and exuberance cut through the air. It was clear enough that I'd not sell anything right now. There were only a few lone stragglers that still arrived, but those two hurried to the bonfire. It was soon that my curiosity won me over. I told myself I'd have a quick look around and go watch the bonfire as well. Making my way to the yard was quite the feat. The whole area was utterly overcrowded with people. Once I'd made it, I took a glance towards the bonfire, but I couldn't see much. There were way too many people in front of me. The only thing I saw were long, wooden sticks that were held towards the flames, roasting big chunks of meat. I watched for a while, but then I saw the open door of the farmhouse. Not going to piss against a tree again with all those people around. I was sure they'd unclogged the toilet by now. I had a look around the small entry room, but it was almost entirely empty. Haphazardly I decided on the hallway to my right to look for any sign of a toilet. As I walked on, I saw nothing. There were a few rooms, but their doors were either locked, or they were empty. Finally, the hallway led into a vast, dark area. I couldn't see a thing though. After a short while of fumbling around the walls, I found a light switch. The moment I hit it I realized that I was in a storage room for the meat. All around me carcasses dangled from meat hooks. The smell of flesh was almost suffocating. I was about to turn around and leave the room when my eyes focused on something that shot ice through my veins. There, right at the back, dangling from a huge meat hook was without a doubt a human torso. I saw the bloodied neck, the shoulders, as well the stumps where the legs would have been. I stood there, frozen, telling myself this must be a joke. It was a prop to scare the kids or play a trick on trespassers who snuck in here. There was no way this could be real. I looked through the room to convince myself. It was clear that all the other pieces of meat in here were animal carcasses, right? They were not. There was another torso to my left, a lower body at the far right, and a bit down the row dangled a lonely leg. Did this mean all those other chunks and pieces around me were the same as well? Were they all human? Dear God, what was this place? What had I stumbled upon here? I couldn't think. All I could do was stare at the horror around me in disbelief. There was no way, was there? This had to be. God damn it, who the hell's in there? Is that you, Rainer? I thought I told you if I ever saw you nibbling on one of them again, I'd beat the living shit out of you. Oh God, someone was coming. What the hell do I do? I almost rushed towards the exit of the room but realized I'd run straight into whoever was coming. I took a few steps back into the room, then a few more, then I hurried to the back. I couldn't see any other exit, no doors, no windows, nothing. I had to hide. But where could I even hide? Right then I saw an old, metal cabinet. Within moments I ripped at the doors and thanked God when they opened. I was inside in a second and closed them behind me again. It didn't take long for someone to step into the room. From the small slit between the doors, I could see who it was. The skinny butcher who'd measured me up before. Now where the hell are you? He asked with not just a bit of malice in his voice. As he looked around and scanned the room, I didn't dare move. I didn't even dare to breathe, afraid he'd hear it. I felt like an animal in front of a headlight, like prey in front of a predator. The empty eyes of the guy wandered from carcass to carcass, and he slowly started to step into the room. "Oh God, please don't let him notice me," I prayed. "Please don't let him notice me." I repeated this over and over in my head. Then a new thought popped into my mind. Did he know I was here? He stepped further and further into the room, pushing the meat, the bodies aside as he did. With each step, he got closer to the cabinet. Any moment now, I thought, any moment now. I almost screamed out, almost jumped from the cabinet in blind panic, when I was saved by a boy. He suddenly stumbled into the room. The skinny butcher jerked around, walked towards him and slapped him across the face. "Didn't I tell you to turn the damned light off in here? What are you even doing back here? If you did grab a bite again, I dare you." "But I did," the boy started. He didn't get to finish what he was going to say because the organizer's booming voice was heard from the hallway. "What's the hold up? We need another one, quickly, a woman this time." "Right away," the skinny butcher answered. "Get this one over there," he yelled at the boy, and when he didn't move right away, he slapped him again. Still sitting in the cabinet, I watched as the boy took down part of a female body and carried it out of the room. The skinny butcher stayed for a bit longer. He looked over the bodies, counting them. "Not too many left, guess it's time for the main event soon." With that, he turned off the lights and left the room. I can't say how long I sat inside the cabinet. I was shaking, shivering and trying my hardest not to hyperventilate. Any moment now, I thought, the lights would turn back on and I'd see the butcher's face right in front of the cabinet. Or the stout organizer would drag me from it with his greasy hands to sink his black, rotten teeth into my flesh. For long minutes I fought to keep the fear at bay and to keep myself from panicking. Only once I'd calmed down and had made sure no one was around, did I dare open the doors of the cabinet. With light steps, I made my way back into the hallway. I'd barely crossed the first few meters when the same boy from before came running into my direction. He stopped and stared at me. His eyes were wide and almost empty. I could see that his head was hard at work trying to decipher the situation. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, which made my heart skip a beat. "Men are to the right, women to the left, got that?" I said in as hard a voice as I could muster. For a few nerve-wracking seconds he stared at me, thinking, but then he seemed to give up, nodded and ran past me. I almost dropped to the floor as the strength left my legs. I slumped against the wall, breathing heavily. I couldn't rest though. I had to go on. I had to get out and stumbled onward. Outside the noise rose up again. It became jubilation as I heard hundreds of voices scream up with excitement. It turned into a wild cacophony before the sounds of utter chaos erupted from outside. I was back in the entry room. I took one step towards the door, but they'd see me, wouldn't they? No way could I risk that. Instead, I stormed down the other hallway. There had to be a different way out. I went for the first door I saw, but it was locked. The next one I tried led me into a room that was trashed and almost entirely covered in blood. I almost vomited at the sight. I almost threw the door shut again when I saw the butcher in the entry area. I almost jumped into the room, hoping he hadn't seen me. At that moment I saw something. Lying on the floor in the room was an old, dirted jute shroud. The same type those figures wore. I'd no idea if it would even work, but there wasn't anything else I could do. I picked it up and quickly shrouded myself into it, hoping I could trick them and get out of here. Who's over there? I dare you, Rainer, if you're fooling around again, He broke up when he saw me. His face distorted for a moment and he inched back a step. Oh, I didn't, it's served outside, there's nothing in here anymore, he said in an almost scared tone. I didn't say anything. Instead, I pulled the jute shroud as close around me and hurried outside. I stopped in my tracks when I actually saw the horror that was going on. I'd seen the bodies, sure. I'd heard the organizer call out. I knew what must be going on. Yet seeing it for real was different. I saw the wide eyes and open mouths of the visitors. I saw how they stared at the body parts and chunks of meat roasting on the long wooden sticks. Human body parts and human meat. The bright fire revealed the true nature of their faces. I'd thought of them as inbred, but they couldn't possibly be human. Their mouths were too wide, their faces too different. Those people, no, those creatures here, were something entirely different. They pushed against each other, reached out into the flames to get the glistering piece of meat. I felt nauseous watching as they gorged themselves on human flesh. They smiled in ecstasy as grease and blood ran down their misshapen mouths and faces. Some looked more like humans, while others were caricatures. They had long mouths with giant teeth and swallowed arms and legs whole. A few were as small as children, and yet others reminded me of beings from myths and folklore. Worst though, were the things hidden under the shrouds. Only once did I catch a glimpse of one of them. I saw a disgusting, leathery face with a beak instead of a mouth. Just for a short moment did the one eye of the creature focus on me, before it turned back to the chunk of meat it was holding. I had to get away from here. It was only a matter of time before I'd get noticed. As best as I could, I made my way through the cannibalistic monstrosities around me. I squinted my eyes, to not see what was going on and focused only on the edge of the crowd. That's where I had to go. That's what I had to reach. Each step was worse than the one before. It meant pushing on against nightmarish creatures and new surges of terror. I desperately held on to the shroud, which had been ripped away almost twice. I ebbed forward step by step, but as I reached the edge of the crowd, I realized that the nightmare wasn't over. Guess it's time for the main event soon. That's what the butcher had said. As I saw the area around the farmhouse, I knew what the main event must have been. I had been us, the traders. As I looked on, I saw the remains of market stands and sales vehicles. The whole area must have been overrun by the frenzied mob due to its thirst for human flesh. The air was heavy with a stench that I wouldn't dare to describe. For a moment I couldn't fight the urge to vomit, then I forced my body to move on. Here and there I saw a few stragglers. Creatures feeding on the few pieces that remained of the market traders. I heard screams from nearby, proof that someone else must still be alive. I didn't dare to look. It wasn't long before I found the remains of my market stand. My breath was ragged, coming out in hard intervals as I dragged myself towards my car. It looked as if it was still undamaged. I prayed that I was right, I prayed. A quick look around revealed that there were only a few creatures around. They were searching through the nearby meadow, most likely for the one market trader that hadn't been around, me. Finally, I reached the car. With one swift motion, I hit the key to unlock the door, ripped it open and jumped inside. It took me only a moment to start it, but I'd already been noticed. The first of the creatures rushed towards the car and hit the door right when I locked it. In berserk fury, the thing beat down at it. There was the heavy creak of metal before the glass window exploded into 1,000 pieces. I hit the gas, but for a moment the car didn't move, then monstrosity outside had to let go. I accelerated the car and sped down the dirt path. I was past the remains of the market stands, then I was at the farmhouse, then I was past it. I was about to thank God for having made it, when I saw something standing next to the road ahead. It was one of the shrouded figures. Within a moment the shroud flew up into the air. I heard a blood-curdling scream of rage and fury. Before I closed my eyes and hit the gas, I saw it. I saw the nightmarish truth of what lay hidden under these shrouds. It was a giant, hulking mixture of human, bird and something else. There were too many limbs, there was scared, bulging flesh and feathers. Eyes closed and high on adrenaline, I floored the gas. I heard the scratching of claws, the tearing of metal, and for a moment I was sure that was it. That the thing had caught me in its grasp. But I wasn't stopped. The car rushed on, and I heard the thing rage behind me. I didn't dare to look back. I didn't look back for as long as I drove on. It was long past midnight when I finally dared to stop the car. Via the navigation system, I made it to a nearby petrol station. It was from there that I called the police and reported the whole incident. I'm not sure what I've told them that night. I must have been a nervous wreck, babbling and yelling about cannibalistic murders. I can't remember for how long they questioned me. When they finally went to check on the farmhouse, they found it completely abandoned. Nothing was there. No people, no cars, no market stands, nothing. Worst of all, no proof that anything had happened. For the past half year, I've seen a shrink. He's been trying hard to convince me that my story can't be true. What I thought I saw that night hadn't been real. He's telling me there were no creatures and no murders. It was all in my head. I really want to believe him. I want nothing more than to accept that it was all just my own delusion, a hallucination conjured up by my own mind. I can't anymore though. Now that the new year started, I decided to attend markets again. It was just yesterday that I saw a stout, balding man who was giving out flyers. The moment his small bead-like eyes focused on me, I knew who he was. The moment he gave me a sly grin and revealed his blackened, rotten teeth, I knew he'd recognized me as well.
Holy shit, that was terrifying. Oh my god. That's where it ends? Maybe, oh, comment, maybe you should contact the police or military and have them discuss as traitors. That's funny, but holy shit, this story was good. Oh my god. I should never attended the annual bonfire market. I mean, and that it's like, where do you put yourself in that scenario, like of the main character? It's like you are screwed beyond belief. Like that's the writing and the storytelling, and the convince of like fluctuation of like a survivor being thrown into a horror place and barely making it out alive. Like it the writing behind it, it kind of had like a felt like straightforward realism to it, and oh my god, that again, amazing. Using the word breath though, might want to check your grammar there for a second, but yeah, or that may have been the last story. I don't remember. Either this one or the last one. Learn how to write breath, because it's when breathing is spelled differently than breath. But yeah, holy shit. Anyway, let's move on to our next one. Let's see what we got here. I always clean up my messes. Let's try this one. This one seems to be a bit of a shorter one, so let's try it. I always clean up my messes by Gore X H Gore X Horror. So yeah, we're gonna do that then. I always clean up my messes in 3, in 2, 1.
The sound of thunder shook the windows of my house. The living room lit up just as I was jolted awake. I blink away my blurry vision as I become fully awake. My memory is foggy as I tried to remember when I had fallen asleep, or how I had gotten on the couch, when just minutes ago, I was taking a walk. Only then, there was no rain. It couldn't have been minutes ago because now it's dark out, and storming. I can't remember anything between my walk until now. I feel confused and exhausted, and as I stretch, sore. I sit up and feel my whole brain shift inside of my head. I grip a fistful of my hair, rubbing my knuckles against my head. I feel lightheaded and try to shake off my dizziness, but to no avail. How many hours has it been? How long have I been laying here? When did I get back to my house? Another crash of thunder echoed through my house. It was only when I hear how loud the thunder was, that I realized, my front door was wide open. I slowly stand up, fighting off the fainting feeling. Lightning flashed again, lighting up the dark room. In these few seconds, the mess on the floor catches my attention. What was that? I stumble blindly through my living room to find the light switch. As I approach the wall, I slip on whatever was covering the floor, sending me down, almost into a split. I use my hands to catch myself, but the slippery substance causes my palms to go sliding out from underneath me, my stomach hits the floor and my clothes are soaked. The smell makes my nostrils flare in disgust as I feel a tingle down my spine. It's a familiar smell, but I don't want to think about what it could be. Carefully, I let my hands wander up the wall as I pull myself up. I feel around until I find the light switch. I hesitate before finally flicking it on. The room lit up, but I keep my eyes on the wall, not wanting to face what I knew I had done. My eyes drifted, slowly, to the front door as I finally close it. When my hand reaches the front door, a dark, muddy substance smudges onto the surface. I turn my palms up to see that they are covered in what looked like a mixture of murky, brown mud and blood. My eyes trail down to the floor where the mess had originated. The floor is covered in it. There was a trail going from my front door, leading around the corner to where the basement door was. I shift on my bare feet and swallow hard. I follow the crimson path, not bothering to step around it. There's no point in avoiding the mess I had made. The fact that there even was a mess left, just proves how much trouble I was already in. Getting my feet dirty was the least of my problems. The trail was in a sloppy line, like something had been dragged through it, struggling. My cheeks heat up as I clench my jaw as hard as I can. My hands make fists and my nails dig into my palms as I pass the bathroom. I quickly take a peek at my reflection. My hair is a tangled mess, like I had slept on it for days. My lip is busted and scabbed over. I have a bruise on my left cheek, just below my eye. The wounds look at least a couple days old. I didn't have a bruise when I went walking this morning. The thing is, I'm starting to think my walk wasn't this morning. What if it's been days? How many days? I rush out of the bathroom to find my phone. When I left the house, it was Thursday afternoon. Now it's Saturday night. It's been 2 days. I've been out of control for 2 days. When this happens, it's never for this long. Usually, it only lasts about 6 to 7 hours. Long enough to have my mess cleaned up by the time I've come to. I never have any injuries, either. I'm always fast and neat. There has never been this many errors before. This thing is getting harder to control. I'm getting sloppy. Usually, I'm aware before it happens, I can feel it coming. I can prepare. This time, I had no clue. There was no warning. With this thought, I hear a loud banging. I don't even have to think to know it's coming from the basement. It's always the same noise from the same room. I slowly walk to the basement door and open it. I gaze down at the steps, descending into darkness. I walk down the first 3 steps, letting the door slam behind me. All sound ceases. I continue down the steps until I saw it, her, rather. She is in her cage, like they always are, sat on a chair, like they always are, strapped to it, like they always are. Her arms hang above her head, and 4 clings to her left arm. She sobs as I walk closer, my head cocked to the side. She still hasn't looked up at me. On the floor of the cage, there are 2 half-empty plates of food and empty water bottle thrown about, from when I must have untied her to let her eat and drink. I always do let them eat and drink. Why wouldn't I? What am I? A monster? The tube coming out of her arm ran up and out of the cage, connecting to an 4-stand which held a blood-red bag. I swallow hard and licked my lips. My eyes fall on her again as she looks up at me. She sure is a pretty one. I'm always in a little bit of shock when I see them after I've come to. They're always a stranger. Never met them, never seen them before in my life, and somehow, I'm still in awe. Her head hangs again. Maybe she's too weak to keep her eyes on me. Maybe she's too scared, she continues to sob. I reach up to the blood bag to see how much I had drained her of so far. Who was that? I hear her whisper with a hoarse voice. My gaze follows hers and finds its way to the floor. There, lay a rotting body I had carelessly covered with a black tarp. A pale cramped-up hand hangs out for whoever to view. Don't know. Don't care. I mumble. I examine her body as she coughs and starts quietly sobbing again. She is dressed in muddy running attire. Her shirt had the left sleeve ripped off of it. She has blood covering her beautiful blonde hair. The blood had trickled down her face, covering her shirt, all the way down her torso. Her ponytail was barely hanging onto the end of her hair. I must have pulled her hair at one point. I'm guessing I caught her on my walk. The smell of all her blood is making me nauseous, but a feeling of warmth spread throughout my body at the same time. I don't want to do this, but if I don't drain her first, I was going to make an even bigger mess when I take her apart. I've already made a big enough mess as it is. I step closer to her. If there were no cage to separate us, we would be toe to toe. Her head jerks up again and her eyes lock with mine. There is a look. It's a look I've been given so many times before. It had to be my second favorite part, right next to what was about to happen. I cock my head to the side and stare a little longer. Something was different. I don't know why, but there was look so distant, and a fear so severe, I would have sworn, I'd never seen it like that before. Her eyes are wide with a dread so intense, even the bars of the cage were pleading along with her. I can hear it so loudly, much more clear than anything I've ever experienced with any one of the others. I believe it is because she is more lucid than they usually are. By this point they're usually falling in and out of consciousness, hanging halfway off of their chair after trying to escape, then passing out of exhaustion and blood loss. But she was sitting normally. I mean, she had spoken to me for fuck's sake. They usually just groan and mumble incoherently. Maybe I'll get a no or a please here and there, but they usually can't form a full sentence. She's a fighter. I'm reminded of the bruise on my cheek and my busted lip. A tiny smile finds its way to my lips. I wonder what a fighter tastes like. The sheer terror radiating off of her clouded the air with a tension so thick, I could taste it. Her tension tastes like red wine and metal. My mouth is watering. I reach above her, to the shelf just above her cage. I feel around until I feel the slick blade of my favorite toy. I pull it towards me and examine it. There's not a speck of dried blood anywhere to be found. I always clean my messes up. I like to work with clean tools. The blade was the size of my arm and it was so keen and so sharp it's butchering the air into slivers as I waved it around to show her. My guess is that this is to be used on some kind of animal. I could never hurt an animal. I mean, who could do something so cruel? I smile and her breathing begins to get heavier as she weakly struggles against her restraints. She begins rapidly shaking her head and mumbling a string of no, 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 no. I shake my head as I show her the blade again. I glance at the large blood bag that hangs next to the cage and her eyes follow my gaze. I take in a deep breath of anticipation. Almost. I sing in a whisper to her. I carefully place the bone saw on the table next to the cage as I hear a faint, please. I ignore it as I turn to face the mess of remains on the floor across the room. Her pleads get louder behind me. I sigh. I need to clean up on mess before I can make another. She's screaming now. I lick my lips and gather what's left of the last body and toss them in a spare body bag. It takes a certain amount of strength to drag the bag over the stairs, but I don't mind. I'll gain my strength back when I get a taste of what's screaming bloody murder across the room. She screams through her gasps for air, while weakly struggling against her restraints. She's slowly giving up. The thought takes my breath away and makes my mouth water even more. I force myself to keep carrying the remains upstairs and into the night because I have to clean up my mess. I always clean up my messes. Why are you doing this? She gives up at the same time I reach the top of the stairs. I swallow my urge to start on her right then and there as her scent fills my nose. I smile and answer her, because I'm hungry. I'm so fucking hungry.
So another cannibal story, not a creature one, but a cannibal story. And oh my god. Again, so that was the perspective of the killer again. And holy shit, that's terrifying. That's like the thought of a psychopathic person. And oh my god. Nope. I I don't know. That one kind of was really creepy in my opinion. Oh god, that gave me chills actually. Because I never would have thought to actually think, I wonder, what is the evil, destructive force in these stories thinking at the time? And when you have people who can, I guess, rate to that level, it's some, terrifying horror. But yeah. Anyway, we're going to move on to a really short one called Something is Haunting My Sister by Heirano. It's really short, little tidbit, so we're just going to do that one. It's a really small story. And yeah, again, I didn't really have an idea of doing a cannibal-esque type themed no sleep, no horror, or horror stories, cannibal horror stories, but apparently that's what we're leaning towards today. Sorry about the Skype calls, they occasionally just happen. But yeah, so let's move on to the next one, shall we? Again, this one is called what is this called? This is called Something is Haunting My Sister by Hey Reneo. So let's begin.
I had a horrible nightmare the day before everything started. I dreamt I was in a large, white car with my siblings, passing along an unpaved and sandy road. My sister was driving, I was in the passenger seat and my little brother was in the back seat. I was talking about something funny, and then, from the corner of my eye, I saw one of those wide and long load trucks ahead. I had to admit that I didn't pay much attention even to the fact that it was worryingly close. So yet, we were talking and laughing, everything seemed to be quite normal, until our car crashed into the truck ahead. When I opened my eyes, all I saw was blood. And then I discovered the long, narrow PVC tube that drilled my sister's neck, almost breaking it in half. I hurried to put pressure to the wound and screamed for help. However, for some reason, as much as I yelled at the top of my lungs, my voice didn't come out. The driver of the car that was next to ours just stared at me with confusion while I begged him to save me. But no one did. My agonizing sister looked at me as if she was trying to say something, and I started to cry. The awful, high-pitched scream my sister shouted was what woke me up. That was the first of 3 weird things that happened to my sister back then. Today marks 2 years of that. The second one occurred simultaneously with the dream, though, but I didn't know until the next morning when I told my sister about it. She said that she couldn't sleep because I was talking very loud. So, after 2 or 3 hours of fighting against insomnia, she felt something cold at the back of her neck. She said that it felt like long, pointy fingers that poked her skin with ice-cold nails. She said that whatever was Morse coding her neck made her jump out of the bed, sweating with fear, and then she tried to wake me up to comfort her. But I was sleeping soundly and didn't hear her whimpering. Strike number 3 happened a week after that. My sister was and still is a very beautiful young woman and liked to take a lot of pictures of herself. And that was she was doing that day, with a digital camera. She was home alone, sitting on a sofa bed that was in a balcony at the second floor of our house, just next to our room. As the sun was setting, and after taking a lot of selfies, she decided to take a very close-up photo of her right eye. At first, she didn't see anything out of the usual, but then she saw it. She discovered something reflecting on her iris. It was the face of a tall, pale-skinned man, staring back at her. She started to tremble and looked around. She even looked at the street, but there was no one besides her. When I arrived home that evening, she showed me the picture. Needless to say, we couldn't sleep well that night. The next day we told our parents about the incident, but when we tried to show them the picture, we couldn't find it. It was gone. The strangest thing of all was to find all the photos she took that day, except for that one. It was like the eye selfie with the face of the man vanished in thin air. My sister and me know what we saw, but we couldn't recover the selfie no matter how hard we tried. To this day we do not know exactly what happened.
Okay, so that was a really short one. Again, pretty spooky. Sorry with the command going off. Beaked Musician decided to play a command, so if you want to send any hate to who played my commands in my stream, you can shoot your hate comments over at Beaked Musician 0. Anyway, we're currently doing horror. I don't know if you're still watching Big, but we're currently doing horror stories. And we're trying to, listen to them, so I'm just muting my commands. Please don't, if you're one of those people, don't play my commands when we're doing this type of stream where it's like sound intensive, because people are trying to hear the story. If you need to talk to me, you can literally type in chat. I am pretty much there. I've responded to Grim as in the past, but yeah, so if I'm ever doing these streams again, don't do what Beak just did. Use Beak as a bad example into why I do not mod him for set reasons. Anyway, going back to the stories, that was, minus interruption, really good story in the sense that I feel like it's those haunted stories that we see a lot where it's like people's like family or like someone doing something eerie happening. Whether it's true or not, up to them. But again, just those eerie stories of ghosties on the loose. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, it's completely up to set user. Personally, I don't. Do I believe there's a possibility that they could exist? Sure. Do I actually believe they do exist? No. But yeah, that's just the way I see it. If you see differently, that's completely up to you. I don't know. I just feel like it was kind of dulled for that reason because it's kind of overused story type of aesthetic. But yeah. Let's see. Fear. Fear. Actual story called Fear. That's actually, I didn't know it was actually a story. By K. Jones. And it's self-harm. Oh, this is, actually, I'm going to avoid that because I don't want to go into that route. Some of this, there's some stuff I won't redo because it's a bit too bad for stream and I don't want to condone anything from it. My grief is my family is cursed. Here we go. Here's a new one. How long is this one? This one is, we got a bit of a long one here. I wouldn't say as long as the AI one, but this is definitely longer than most. Okay, let's pop it in there. And so yeah, my family is grieved by Dark RJ, U/R Dark RJ. But yes, let's begin.
My relationship with my mother was strained, inexorably volatile. It was hard for me to feel close to her sometimes, even though I was closer to her than anyone else in my family. I know that she felt the same way, too. She would say that she couldn't be around me for too long because she cared for me too much, and that I would exhaust her. And she couldn't stop herself from worrying about me, it was simply too taxing on her. We were too similar to one another. Our energies, though mostly rooted in love, were too intense to be tolerated in unison in many situations. Even if nobody had mentioned it, the discomfort between the two of us lingered in the air like a nasty flu virus, and it infected everyone who came close to us. My pain was her pain, my losses, her losses, and so on and so forth. She was my surrogate. We fought with each other. A lot. Maybe more than other sons and mothers did, more than the ones that I knew, at least. And not really over stupid, trivial things like grades or helping run the house. Though she would tell me otherwise, I knew that my mom was worried that time was running out for me. She was afraid that life would leave me behind because I seemed to buck the customary. She worried because I couldn't find a good job after college, even though I had assured her that half of my graduating cohort was in a similar position. She felt like she had done me a disservice because her and my dad had allowed me to move home after I had tried to find work abroad for half a year. She was heartbroken because I had been through my own failed marriage at a relatively young age. My mom worried about me because I smoked a lot of weed, even though I would tell her that it helped to nurture my creativity. She thought that was a crock. I didn't care, though. I know that her concern was normal to some extent, that's what mothers do, people would tell me over and over and over again and again. I was so sick of hearing it because I was convinced that the degree to which her private anxieties about me extended was abnormal and guilt-inducing. It was hurting me, being worried about so much. Codependency in its most literal and pure form, she was an extension of me, which almost seems backwards, if not selfish of me to even say. I used to wonder what would happen to my mom if I were to suddenly die. She would have destroyed herself. My mother had a history of alcoholism and addiction in her family. She was functioning alcoholic who learned to chase her Xanax with wine when she realized that she wasn't receiving the type of love that she required from my father. Her mom was an alcoholic and a narcissist. My grandma loved her, but that love was overshadowed by an addiction to her own personal pleasures. She didn't possess the capacity to act like a proper mother for her children, especially after her husband had passed. My mom was 9. Her dad had been feeling sick and had driven himself to the emergency room. He suffered a massive heart attack in the parking lot and died in his car. The following day, my mom's oldest brother was shot in the head by some people he had stolen money from. They stuffed his body into a potato sack and threw it over the edge of a 10-story building. Her second oldest brother was the only one who was emotionally capable of going to the coroner's office to identify the body. Later that day, my mom found him dead in the back of his car, parked in their garage. He had willingly ingested a large amount of household bleach and suffered from severe internal bleeding. In his shirt pocket was a scribbled note describing his mother's disdain for him, and how the feeling was reciprocated. My grandma had a nervous breakdown shortly after and was hospitalized for a long period of time. My mom's remaining sibling, her adult sister, relocated with her to Southern California, in hopes of moving her away from the disease of tragedy that had infected her family. That was my mom's life. I can't blame her for marrying my dad at 19. He was security to her. A sane and normal man. A good man, something she hadn't had the pleasure of knowing. She wanted a family, perhaps so that she could create a life that she was viciously robbed of as a girl. I was the second son. Her firstborn choked on his own vomit 3 days after birth, and died. Her anxiety and overbearing control over me began when I was a baby. She did not want me to slip away like the first one. Even after she had my younger brother, I was the one who received all of her attention. She clawed onto me and didn't let go. When kids used to tease me and make fun of me for acting different and being weird, she would immediately come to my rescue and scoop me up. She would sing the song from Dumbo to me, the one that Dumbo's mom sings to him as they are forcefully separated by the cruel circus workers. She did this to make me feel better, and to assure me that I was loved more than I knew possible. I was the floppy-eared Dumbo, and she was my mama elephant. Each time I acted up in school and was threatened with suspension or expulsion, my mom and dad would go to whatever lengths they had to in order to buy me second and third chances. I was tired of the interference, though. I wanted them to stay out of my life. I wanted my mom to stay as far away from me as possible. Her history of sadness and morbidity threatened me. In 2005, I was a junior in high school and I had gotten in trouble for ditching classes and not doing my homework. The faculty called my parents in for a meeting to discuss these matters. I was asked to be present. During the rapid line of questioning from my superiors, my mom would try and speak over me, speaking for me. She got so desperate that she had informed my teachers that I was facing difficulty as I was struggling with my sexuality. I wasn't struggling, I was gay, though. They capitalized on the struggle of my coming to terms with the gay thing. This was a move that was designed purely to help my teachers understand the difficult time I was facing with coming out, and they were receptive to this cunning plea bargain. I, however, was not. I was angry and embarrassed. I slammed my hands down on the glass table, giving birth to hairline fissures in the glass. I cursed my mother's name in front of the room. "You cunt!" I screamed, sneering at my mom. "I hope you and Dad die in an accident on your way home. I hope you all die." My eyes stung with anger and my forehead was sticky from the nervous sweat that seeped out from my hairline. My gaze transmitted a cold and evil hatred directly into my mom. I locked eyes with her, and I could tell she had deeply regretted what she had done. I stormed out of the office and walked 5 long miles home in the cold rain. My mom trailed me in her car, half angry and half remorseful. Angry because I had supremely disrespected her and my father in front of a group of educators. Remorseful because she knew she had outed her son at a very vulnerable time in his life. She yelled out of her window, begging me to get into the car with her. I ignored her very presence. I clenched my fists as I silently prayed that a flatbed would T-bone her car. I wanted to watch her body fly through her windshield. I wanted to observe her mangled figure sprawled out on the wet asphalt, where I would walk over to her, pull my dick out and piss all over her bloodied, battered face. The anger inside me grew deeper and more painful. I felt betrayed by someone who was supposed to be the closest to me. Never mind my dad. He and I were never very close. He was just a guy who supplied the sperm to make me, as far as I was concerned. This, to me, was a pure betrayal, plain and simple, although, now I see that nothing on my mom's part stemmed from ill intent. She was just trying to help in the only way that she knew how. I didn't surface from my room for 3 days after that incident, except for late at night when my parents were asleep, in order to sneak food into my room and to smoke the occasional cigarette. I didn't want to look at my mom. The thought of her face made me want to strangle her neck until she turned blue. I felt bad for the things I had said to her in the meeting, but I also wanted her to suffer the deepest pain. And in silence, I wanted her to feel the hatred that I had toward her for outing me to my school's faculty. I had secretly hoped she felt sick inside. I wanted her to relieve the traumas she had dealt with as a child, tenfold. Even as I write this now, at 5:57 p.m. on Saturday night, I feel incredibly guilty. These memories are painful and abnormal, and all of this will probably paint me as a villain. And I am. My 30-year-old self knows how different and ungrateful I was at 16. I was not, by any stretch, capable of seeing more than an inch beyond my lurid emotions. A few years had passed. I hadn't changed much, emotionally or physically. My mom had been sober for some time now, thanks to Alcoholics Anonymous, which was also evil, as far as I was concerned. Because when she got sober, she got stronger. She became aware of her surroundings. She was aware of her weaknesses, and she saw how I would use them to my advantage. She refused to have heated, potentially argumentative conversations with me unless my father was present. My mother was no longer a victim, and I was not pleased. I felt cornered, like they had finally caught onto my game. She stopped worrying about me as much, which was a much-needed relief. But it didn't last very long. When I turned 20, I had ended up meeting and briefly dating a seemingly nice guy who, unbeknownst to me, had HIV. Upon this discovery, I immediately took myself to my doctor to get tested. A 20-minute wait in a cold, sterile exam room felt like a hellish eternity. I was waiting for the worst news of my life, my worst fear, to be confirmed. The test came back negative. I was beyond relieved, though I told myself that if I had tested positive for the disease, I would undoubtedly commit suicide. Following in my mother's family's footsteps, it only seemed fitting. My parents had found out about the ordeal, despite my attempts to remain private, and this ignited my mom's old anxieties once again. I told her that if she decided to tell anyone about any of this, I would kill myself in front of her. We argued for hours that night and, once again, silence and distance nestled itself into the center of our household. Our relationship inevitably deteriorated even further into the depths of darkness. We barely spoke to or even looked at one another. I stayed out of her business, and she stayed the hell out of mine. We walked around the house, avoiding each other and pretending that we didn't exist. We hadn't eaten a family dinner together in months. This wore on my dad, too. I eventually saved up enough money for a deposit on an apartment and moved out. I changed my phone number without passing along the new one to my parents. I got on my own car insurance plan, paid for my own rents and bills, normal adult responsibilities, finally. I cut most contact with my family, aside from necessary billing and health insurance issues, and I made sure to avoid the public places where I knew that I might run into them. The blood we shared had gone stale at this point. I refused to clean and suture up the old wounds that still gaped raw. Instead, I intended to cleanse my mind of the nasty memories and to begin afresh. I was convinced that it was possible to start a new life. One without my mother. One morning, before work, I had received an email from my mom. It was innocuous enough, filling me in on the mundane details that I hadn't missed since I detached from the household. My brother had moved out of state for college, my dad remained relatively unchanged, and my mom had visited a psychic. I paused and stopped reading on. A psychic. She's desperate, I thought to myself. An absolutely desperate creature, grasping at straws. My mom had gone seeking advice from a medium, for whatever reason. I had never once known her to give a second thought to anything regarding the occult or witchcraft. In fact, she'd roll her eyes and encourage me to get busy when I had informed her of my interest in witchcraft and Wicca. My parents were loosely Christian, if that's even a thing. As I read on, she informed me that the medium had recorded their time together and had given her a CD recording of the session. She wanted me to come and pick up the CD and listen to it. I was silent after reading her email. I didn't know what or how to think. The Wicca phase had since come and gone, and I was a self-proclaimed logical and cynical atheist. Anything spiritual or occult was all falsity, and science had an answer to everything. I humored the woman, though, mostly out of curiosity. I wanted to hear this incredible session for myself, and I had every intention of exploiting it and making fun of it with my friends. I told my mom to leave the CD in the mailbox and that I would come by after work to pick it up. On my way home from work, I stopped by my parents' mailbox and picked up the disc. Sitting in the driver's seat and staring blankly at it, I wondered what I would hear when I played the CD. As much as I hated to admit it, I was genuinely curious. Maybe because I still had some repressed fascination with the occult, but equally because I wanted to see how much of a whack my mom had disintegrated to. I sat down on my couch and loaded the CD into my laptop, opened iTunes, and clicked play. To my surprise, my mom's voice began to speak softly. She had begun to describe what she felt when she gave birth to me. How for the first time in her life, she had felt God giving her a second chance at a life that she had missed out on. She loved me too much, and she realized that in doing so, she hurt me. She said that she had always loved my brother and I, and always will, until the day she can no longer breathe. Her voice was sad, but honest. I could tell that she was trying hard not to cry. It comforted me to hear her voice, but at the same time, I was alarmed by her message. Her final words on the recording were, "Bye-bye. We will see you very soon." But she wasn't alone. A man's voice accompanied hers when she spoke those words. He spoke in a British accent, his tone was whisper quiet and oddly effeminate. The CD stopped. I sat in the silence and darkness of my apartment for a very long moment. Every hair on my body stood erect. I glared at the computer screen, unable to think of anything but those words. Bye-bye. We will see you very soon. I didn't understand. Instead of calling my dad, I got in my car and drove 30 minutes down the highway to my parents' house. When I drove through the gate and up their driveway, I saw both of their cars parked in front of the garage. I was relieved to see that she was home. I sat in my car for a moment, letting the engine idle. I hesitated to go into the house. I hadn't seen or spoken to my parents in months. But something inside of me told me to go into the house to check on my mom. I turned off my car and walked to the front door. My dad sat on the couch with his laptop, typing away and watching TV. He turned around when I walked in and on his face sat an ambivalent look of indifference and surprise. He was shocked to see me. I was shocked to see him, too. Is Mom here? I need to talk to her about something, I said. He looked at and shook his head slowly, pouting his lips and raising his brow a little. No, she went to visit your aunt last night. She won't be back until this weekend, he replied. I was confused. I told him about the CD. He wasn't aware that my mom had been in contact with a medium. This concerned him, and he was bothered that she had not told him about her sessions. I showed him the CD she had given me. He put it into his laptop and clicked play, but nothing happened. This is a blank disc, he said. There's nothing on this. Are you sure this is the right one? I was confused. It was the same exact disc my mom had left in the mailbox for me, I was sure of it. I told him exactly what she said on the recording, and about the man's voice in the background. He was disturbed. He called her phone numerous times but it went straight to voicemail. We called my aunt, and she hadn't heard from my mom in weeks. We couldn't find her. Days turned to weeks, and weeks turned to months without any sort of contact. My mom went missing. I'm 30 years old now, and my mom's birthday is on March 18th, coming up in just a few months. She would be 56 this year. Our family hasn't been able to find her anywhere. It feels like she is a missing person, and I do miss her. We know that she is alive, which, to me, feels just as bad as if she were to be dead, but she refuses to have any form of contact with us. And I feel guilty. And I am to blame. Or not that I'm to blame, but rather, I am blamed. And it isn't like we've filled those who know us in on the details of our family's fall. Only my father, my brother, and I know that I caused my mother to run away. I usually hate to admit regret, and per the advice of my mother, I try and find the valuable lessons within each failure, but what has happened here is beyond reproach. I do feel the horror of regret. So much so that each morning when I wake, I feel the same feeling that I felt when I would battle with my mom, those sickly feelings of stealth and avoidance, trying to dodge contact with her. Knowing that I fucked up and that there is nothing I can do about it. Because it happened. Simple as that. I wish that I could have a second chance at our relationship, and perhaps one day I will see her very soon and I will be able to apologize to her face. But for now, I have to live with my memories, and figure out how to make life worthwhile. I'm sure that's what she'd want me to do. The hatred I had for my mom has since morphed into a sort of endless worry for her. It's constant. And I know that as long as she won't talk to me, I will live with this grief weighing heavy on my shoulders and on my mind. This is the curse that has been placed on my family. By whom or by what, I'll never know. Maybe it isn't a curse, but it feels like one. Like a punishment for being born my mother's child. There's not some positive message here, not one that I can see. I mean, other than what can be learned from my example, the anger that you hold onto will slowly dissolve you. It will eat you up until there's nothing else to chew. It will drive others to run far away from you, and sometimes to never come back home. Maybe I began my life with the ingredients for a miserably broken family, but I baked the cake. I'm learning to move on and to forgive myself, though. To be gentle on myself, and to not let my past infect my present, so that I can have a future. That much is good.
Okay, I believe that was the end of that one. Okay, moral of this, it doesn't really feel like a horror story per se, but like the fact of the matter is that you, like the person, whoever is telling the story, if this is a real story or not, or the main character and how they're written, this doesn't really feel like a story in a horror story in the sense that the horror wasn't really caused by an unnatural force or presence, and sometimes it doesn't need to. But the way you're trying to write it as off as like the human like psychology is what's causing the horror in this case. And the mysterious disappearance of your mom. The fact that she's pushed herself away, whether like the cause would be like she just doesn't want to talk to you anymore. The true horror in reality is yourself. If anything, the fact that she disappeared, and I'm not trying to say this as in like I'm mad at that set main character, or if this is a real story, the writer themselves, is the fact of the matter is you got to come to the conclusion that as aggravated as you get as a person and rationalize to other people, if you are going to then reciprocate bad motive, like not thinking of other people's emotions and reactions, then you at the same time yourself should be blamed. So I'm not again saying that the writers quote unquote deserve a disappearing mom, but he kind of led himself to that point, and which in case I don't really feel bad for a set person about what happened with their mom, whether mom is dead or not. I'm worried about the mom, yes, but him/her. It was said it was gay, so I'm assuming he, because like usually defines towards males or whatever. Whether you're a he or she, I'm not going to try to figure out or assume your gender. My point is, you pushed your mom to that level, and I believe it is your fault, and you should just own up to the blame of taking that. And whether or not you want to say it's your fault or not, yes, she did some rough things and she made some big mistakes, and she tried to make up for herself. The fact of the matter is, you can't be that harsh. Like, you are pushing someone away. You always have to give someone at the very least, a second chance to regain themselves. And yes, when you were young, you can't really like fight for yourself because you were young. But when you push yourself to be a motive like throughout your life, and you let that pass, like you said, hold on to yourself, and you push yourself that far away, you need to come back and realize what type of person you're putting yourself labeled out to other people. Because no one's going to want to become a friend if you have this type of background attached to you. No, you don't have a background to attach to. My point is, I believe that wasn't so much a horror story in the sense that the person who wrote this, if it is a true story, they deserved it. Vice versa to that, it is still a messed up thing. If someone, this is getting at, not trying to be a PSA here, but based on the story, if someone is gay or lesbian of set interest in sexuality, don't judge them. Like that was kind of messed up on the mom's part to be like annoyed with her son being gay. Like I get that. Personally, I'm not gay, but to other people who have that, I can kind of get the sense of saying, hey, I understand it's hard to because not that many people are socially accepting of it, and they should be in the sense that, like, we live in a world where equality should be a thing, but yet people are like, oh, you're gay and lesbian, we gotta hate on you. It's like, what the fuck? I get sometimes, like, if you're just joking around for the memes, because, again, that's like a whole other discussion, but yeah, I didn't mean to make this like a PSA or anything, but realistically, that's also a harsh point to the story that I just wanted to bring up. Confirm. Don't be that person who's going to be like, oh, you're gay, so you're stupid, and I hate you, and I got to disassociate with you. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Let the person be gay or lesbian or whoever the fuck they want to be. As long as they're not doing something to belittle or hurt somebody else, they're a perfectly fine human being in my book. Anyway, there's that. So we got 20 minutes here. We'll probably push in maybe one long story or a couple small ones. Finish up the stream. Let's see here. What's this? My roommate and I have another visitor, possibly more. Nah, I don't want to do that one. That looks kind of dumb. I want to do something that's interesting. I have a new idea. Also, for those who are looking at the Twitch chat and see me and Grim constantly talking, chilling, I'm doing that because I don't want to talk on stream. On top of that, if you see that our catbot is pretty much doing this emulation of like a battle thing, you too can do that as well. You just gotta hop on the stream and, you know, type in dual, and then anyone who else is watching the stream, !dual watching the stream, and you can do them for fun. You get cat bucks, and once I finish up the rewards, which should be coming actually really soon, and this year, I'm gonna say about halfway through the year at the very maximum it'll take to do it. But yeah, so you can do that as well. It's for fun. Let's see. Help losing sleep, too scared, lucid dreams, shadow man. I have a ready. Okay, so help losing sleep to scary lucid dream shadow man at Twinxilla. Let's take a look at this. I'm assuming it's one of those ones where it's like, oh, this stuff is happening to me. It's most likely fake, or if it is, they need to visit set doctor. Anyway, let's do this one. Copy. And, oh shit, sorry about that. Copy and paste. Okay, let's do this. Ready, set, go.
I've had read it for a little bit but never saw any use for it until recently. I've been experiencing these weird out-of-body dreams since I was very little. I saw this Reddit was very popular, and it was really the only popular one I could find with sleep in it, and I was hoping to reach out to a large audience to get some suggestions. Although it wasn't frequent when I was younger, I only experienced maybe 2 or 3 from childhood to late teens. After doing research, I understand that it may just be debunked as lucid dreaming, as it's often described as an out-of-body experience. Nowadays, however, it's a much more intense experience and is in a way paranormal to me. I've always liked watching videos of ghosts and all that, but have never really believed in them. I think strange things can happen, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a ghost, if that makes sense. Before I explain what I mean, let me explain when I first started experiencing these lucid dreams in my childhood that honestly made me terrified of them. Now, when I say terrified at this time, I don't mean I saw like a monster or something. I remember my first experience. I had to be around 7 or 8. I had been laying down, and I closed my eyes. I for some reason couldn't fall asleep for a long while, until suddenly I realized my point of view changed. I was still asleep, but I felt myself, or my soul or something like that, rising out of my body. I wasn't the body anymore, I was whatever the hell was coming out of me. I know it sounds stupid and hippie, but I call it, even if it isn't, the astral plane. Like that was my astral projection coming out of me, even though I could control myself. This part is just hard to explain. Anyway, the reason why I remember this being terrifying is because when my astral projection was coming out of my body, it felt as if my whole body had set on fire. With every movement I tried to do when I tugged away just felt so fucking painful. I wanted to sweat, I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. It hurt so much that I didn't even fully finish my lucid dream. It hurt so much that I had woke up. When I did, everything has seemed normal, but I remember freaking the hell out because when I was seeing my astral projection, or rather being it, I was able to look at myself and the room around me. Crazy shit, I know. To shorten my childhood dream trauma story, a few years later this happened again in a different room, and the same thing happened. I was too much of a pansy to deal with feeling of being on fire, and it woke me up. Now jump ahead a good chunk of years to when I was 16. At this point a lot was going on in my life, with parents divorcing and being homeless for a bit, so perhaps this could be something psychological? I'm not certain. This was around the first time I experienced what I call the shadow man. I did some research on him as well, and apparently it's associated with sleep paralysis, but the shadow man I see isn't quite the same looking as what I read online. And although I have seen him in some of my sleep paralysis episodes, I feel like it's something entirely different. The first time I ever encountered him, as I stated earlier, was when I was 16, I laid down and the same thing happened again where I was lifting out of my body. It once again felt like an agony fire was around my body, but I actually managed to completely break free. Finally, as this projection, I was able to sort of float around but not really far. I couldn't like zoom across the sky like a damn shooting star or anything like that. But it wasn't a very comfortable feeling. I would describe floating around and being out of my body as claustrophobic, and it felt like a whole bunch of pressure was on my chest, which made it that hard to breathe feeling. It's very hazy to remember from this point, but this was the first time the Shadow Man had ever appeared. In this particular time he didn't feel like a threat, and I felt as if we both were curious. I was wondering what the hell he was, and I'm sure if he exists, he was wondering who the hell I was. No matter how hard I try to remember, I can't distinctly remember any facial features of him, if he had any of them at all, and after reading a whole bunch of articles online about it, I felt like he should have also had some hat, but I don't remember him having a hat, so I don't think this to be true. We talked about something, but I don't remember what, and oddly I don't think he had a voice. I know that doesn't make sense, but I can't explain it. From this point on, this was the only non-threatening encounter we have had, and I've since seen him on average 2 to 3 times a week. Ever since then, it's almost as if his presence completely powers over mine. I can't escape him, I can't do anything. One particular encounter I clearly remember was a few months ago, the first time I had experienced sleep paralysis with him. Well, sort of. It went from a lucid dream of him chasing me to me waking up in bed frozen, as he stood above me. Oddly, this was also the only time I remember seeing any facial features on him, which was this ungodly long smile. But it wasn't really a smile. There were no teeth, no tongue, no gums. Almost as if someone cut a crescent shape out of a sheet of paper, if that makes sense. Anyway, so in this night terror he towered above me. My eyes were open, but I wasn't able to move or do anything at all. I remember hearing my roommates in the background at first because they were yelling as they played League of Legends, and I heard them clearly. Afterwards I even went out and told them all about it and described to them the part of conversation I heard. Before I was able to shake my head hard enough to fully wake myself up and escape the Shadow Man, he began laughing, but it wasn't a normal human laugh or a demonic one either. It looked as if he was laughing, but all that came out was the really high-pitched ringing. The exact sound you hear when it's really quiet in your room. I hope you know what I'm talking about. This is a monumental moment, however, because from then on, every time the Shadow Man comes for me in my sleep, I hear the same ringing noise. It naturally also gives me a little anxiety when I hear it awake, but there's a reason for that, which I will explain in a second. Obviously I've experienced him consistently from then on, but the next thing that has happened only a few nights ago, which has finally pushed me to reach out to you guys on Reddit, was when I essentially confronted my fear of the Shadow Man. I remember in my lucid dream just outright attacking him and hanging onto him as I shook my head back and forth hard, as it always wakes me up from nightmares. Now this is where I've honestly never been so terrified in my life, and where I can't separate dream from reality. When I woke up I could still see the Shadow Man, but it wasn't your typical sleep paralysis because I was actually able to move. And as idiotic as it is, I naturally just screamed as loud as I could as the Shadow Man just backed into my bathroom and my roommate came in, making sure I was all right. And I explained everything to him. Just so you can also get a visual of my room for reference, my bed faces 2 doors, my bathroom on the right and a closet on the left. And then on the wall to the left of my bed is the door into the living area. Since then is where my paranoia, and confusion really comes from in my slight experience of paranormal from all of this, but it isn't proven that it is paranormal. I could just be too paranoid, or my roomie could have played a prank on me. So, the last part of my experience with this is yesterday when I was showering in the bathroom, where I saw the shadow man go back into my bathroom door opened and closed. I didn't think much of it, as it could have been my roomie or something. But I stopped the shower, stepped out, and right as I entered, my roomie was freaking out, saying he saw something go into the closet and shut the door right after I had heard the bathroom door as if it left the bathroom and went into the closet. Gives me goddamn chills, but yes, I am aware he could be playing a joke on me. But despite this part, I really am reaching out to you guys on what exactly this could be, or if anyone has experienced anything similar or any suggestions on what I should do. I'm just genuinely freaked out and have been terrified to sleep. I just fucking miss it. If you have any questions, I can do my best to answer them.
Okay, so assuming if this is all real, I actually have I don't have that much experience with sleep paralysis because it's never happened to me personally. But if this is any like equation to that, so because if this is real, like assuming this is real, and I'm just speaking to a fictional thing, actually even before again, if this is fake, fuck you for making me think it's fake, because holy shit, that's fucking terrifying if that was actually real, if it is real. But my experience personally, I think the only thing I've ever got close to, like, something actually, well, I don't know if there's an iconic shadow man that he's talking about that he did research on, but realistically, the, only, problem I've ever had sleeping, like, terror-wise, because I, for those who don't know, I do suffer from insomnia quite a bit, so trying to sleep can be kind of a pain in the ass to me. Luckily for me, I have a high, horror tolerance, so, because I hear a lot of people who have insomnia, when they watch horror movies, they like have a lot of trouble and they can't sleep for like literal days. Luckily, since I have a higher horror tolerance and I can come to the realization that my mind and my body can remain calm in that type of state, I don't have that many problems like that such, because that's what I'm assuming would probably be a doctor thing if it really was real. On top of that, my only experience, like I was saying before, is I do suffer from insomnia occasionally. And a while back when I was in high school, and I was kind of actually starting up this channel, me and my group of friends, or no, well, this was a different day, but this was a day after me and my group of friends found these hypnotist videos where we would watch some of them. We would try and do some of them for the fun, where we would all sit in a group in a Skype call together and just watch these hypnotist videos or whatever, because we wanted to see if it actually worked or not. And in theory, it did. It was actually really, like, I don't know. It wasn't like here's the gist of hypnotism. You have to believe that the video is telling the truth for it to work. Your mind has to kind of get fooled into being tricked that whatever the video says is true. So realistically, at the end of the day, hypnotism is actually not force. It's a big misconception that people are like, oh, he hypnotized me to do this, therefore I didn't have any control to do it. Actually, no. The psychology behind it is that hypnotism, the mind can only do it unless it accepts it. So you can be technically brainwashed, but you can't be hypnotized. Hypnotized means your mind is accepting to what the person is trying to bend as reality. It's basically the briefs of psychology is do we believe things based on how people say stuff, and the mind accepts that as reality. So that's pretty much what we were doing. We were watching some funny ones. There was like one trying like go in quicksand, or there was another one where it was like what was it called? Pretend like make it feel like you're in zero space gravity. There's a bunch of them. You can look them up online on YouTube. But there was this one. So after that day, I was watching a hypnotist video on what's it called? On vampirism. And the idea behind it is a vampire is supposed to come up behind you, bite you, and then you become a vampire. And I was like, oh, this looks kind of interesting. I wonder if this actually works. So I wanted to test it. And if maybe we could get a video out of content, because I was young and I didn't know what to do for content, it'd be funny to hear people's reactions through like a Skype call audio for a video. So I tested it, And I had the weirdest thing, because initially it was around like 5 o'clock, like maybe 5:03 or whatever, when I started watching the video in the afternoon. And I started watching it, and a lot of the hypnotists used to tell you to close your eyes. So I closed my eyes, and I fell asleep listening to the audio. So therefore, because once it's over, it will tell you to wake up and whatever when you're in the trance state. And I was like, okay, cool. So I got to that point, and the video, mind you, is only like maybe 15, 20 minutes long. And in the video, it makes you feel like there's a vampire you're sitting at. I was sitting at my desk when I did this. I rested my head up against my desk, so I wouldn't like fall over and hit my head against something. And it made me feel like a vampire came out of my closet, like that lucid state that he was talking about in the video, where you're like can see yourself outside your body, as almost like you're like you have that pest chain. And this vampire came out of my closet, bit me in the neck, and was supposed to, based on the video, and I read it, I listened it back over without actually trying to focus on the spiral and fall into a trance, was supposed to just disappear, and you're supposed to wake up and feel like you're a vampire for about an hour. Again, curiosity caught me. So after that, that's not what happened in my dream though, or my whatever you want to call it. I was what's it called? Vampire remained there. And those effects of like him like just not chasing you, but him just staring at you like weirdly at you like for long periods of time, like felt he would just do that. He wouldn't leave. Like he was just standing there watching over me, and it was terrifying because like every time I would look at him, he would make these really devilish facial expressions. And realistically, when I actually did woke up, I found out I actually was out cold for like about an hour and a half. The video had already ended. So that's my only terrifying, I guess, lucid dream, or like almost feel like it was real type of dream in my lifetime. I haven't really experienced anything else besides that. And ever since then, I have kind of been avoiding those horror, those horror hypnosises, because I think it's also the problem. But again, that's the closest I can get to, I would say I could help you with that type of idea. Personally, I never heard of the Shadow Man. I'll probably do research on him later. Actually, how much time I got? I'll do it. Well, here, we'll look up an image of him. I'm open up a new tab really quick here. So the Shadow Man, right? Shadow Man. Okay. What was it? Just to clarify. Shadow Man, yeah. Shadow Man horror. I don't know if there's like, it doesn't look like there's an iconic like this is what the Shadow Man is, but personally I would not know if you told me. But yeah, I guess I'm assuming this like shadow-like figure, you'd have to describe it to me. What I would recommend it to the person who, if this is real and you're actually looking for help, go to like a psychologist and start talking to him, because I've learned that a lot of psychologists, I talked to one, he wasn't really diagnosing me with anything. I was just talking to him because I just really love psychology, and I think it's interesting how the human mind reacts to stuff. He was telling me about like certain types of things you do in your day, or like actions you do, will actually inflect your dreams and how you think. And also it's a type of mindset of thinking. Some of it can be avoided to like, it's what type of thinker you are and what type of like creative mind / imagination your mind could have. Vice versa, it to being like something, what you're eating, that's affecting the chemicals in your head, or the actions you're doing. Are you getting enough exercise? Are you getting too much exercise? Are you looking at a computer too long? Are you reading too much into warping your mind? It's all this different types of stuff that could be a possibility. But again, Mr. I don't know what you would prefer to be called as, Twinkzilla or whatever. Again, I couldn't really tell you personally, and yeah, that's what I would just say. That's just my general experience. Find help. Go talk to a doctor. I can't really tell you anything else. But yeah, I'm glad to read your story if that makes you feel any better. But anyway, guys, minus that amazing story, because I do love. If it was a story, that was really good storytelling in my opinion. You made it sound so realistic. That's pretty much the end of our stream. If you're watching this on Twitch, this was a stream at Halos2131. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, this was a stream at Halos2131. I go around 6 to 7 almost every single day. and I go for about 3 hours. Vice versa to that, if you're watching this on Twitch, I upload the majority of these past broadcasts to my YouTube channel at Halos2131. That's a capital HALOZ213, same way it's spelled on Twitch as it is on YouTube. If you can see, while Grim was talking to me here in chat, a Discord link was dropped by my bot. Also, in the description of this YouTube video, it leads you to the same description, the Discord. This Discord links to both to my Discord, which you can then chat with me in an open chat that I have. Don't call me a nerd. You can also have what's it called? A chat room. God damn it, Grim threw me off now on my outro. Oh, I hate you, Grim. Anyway, this was yeah, I know you're just kidding. Open chat room where you can talk to me. If you're interested in streaming, I have a chat room there. I like helping people. If you want to see how I do some of the stuff I do on my stream, where I got my clock, my followings, my commands, all that fun stuff, I have that for there. I also have a place where I clip all my my funny moments, or moments that I wanted to clip in the stream, in a chat room there. I also have a chat room when I go live on my stream for you to see when I go live. This has been my stream. If you guys like this content, let me know. Be sure to give you more. Kill like button, subscribe, become a Spartan today. Halos out. Bye.
Thanks for the host.